What's good, y'all? Welcome to Chip and Zay here on Texas Sports Unfiltered. The new time, baby. 2 o'clock from here on out, 2 to 4. Rock with us every weekday. Appreciate y'all for joining in. Chip Brown, he'll be here soon. You know, Chip, he'll be on that CP time and stuff, so you got to forgive him. I'm sure he's excited while us Longhorn fans are a little, salty about the Tashard Choice situation. If you haven't heard the news, Tashard Choice has taken the job as running backs coach for Chip's Detroit Lions. So now Steve Sarkisian and crew are going to have to fill that hole, unfortunately, because we all know how good Tashard Choice has been. Mark Orphey coming from Rutgers to fill in for Blake Gideon as the safeties coach is another big move for Texas football, and also 14 different guys on this Texas roster, this 2024 roster, are going to be at the NFL Combine. So a lot to get into today. Again, when Chip Brown jumps on, we will really get it on and popping. But as of right now, your boy Zay Collier is holding it down for Chip and Zay. And yeah, y'all are already going. Shout out to my man Quad, already just going at me about Dalton Connect. Yo, Zay, how about Dalton Connect? He didn't look too bad coming in, cleaning up that Luka sweat off the floor from him bumming around with LeBron for 20 minutes. Yeah. Bad showing for game 2 for Luka Doncic and the Lakers, losing to the homie Isaiah Collier and the Utah Jazz. My man Isaiah Collier, who went to USC, number 1 pick. Everybody loves giving me shit about that. But there he is, tardy in a mug. What's up, man?
Oh, what's going on? Okay, so, and of course, in the immortal words of Judy Brown, happiness is a choice. We're happy you're spending some time with us. Chip and Zay, 2 to 4. Tell your friends and enemies to set their alarms. So I told you I took the lovely Albel for a birthday dinner.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, I left my credit card at the restaurant.
Oh, bruh.
And since I'm leaving town tomorrow to go cover the Texas baseball season opener, I had to go and get it. And so I apologize because there was crazy effed up traffic on Old Spicewood Springs Road. But Zay, my man, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
We got a lot to talk about, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Congratulations. One of my favorite coaches and program history, Tashard Choice, has now gone off to your Detroit Lions. So I hope you bask in it and relish it and savor this moment, because he's the type of guy that could take your team to another step, as we saw for what he did for the Texas Longhorns these last few years and all the guys that he's helped put in the National Football League. So it's unfortunate. I thought the Rays would be enough for Tashard Choice to stick around, but obviously he wants bigger things in his mind, and that's to go back to the NFL. So can't knock him. This is what happens. We all know the business. When you have success, guys are going to get poached. It is what it is, but you hate to see T-Choice go, and yeah, it's on to the next, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this is a blow because you got players who have grown so attached to Tashard Choice that Steve Sarkisian's going to have to, talk some guys down from the ledge and make a great hire, which I'm sure he will, just like he made the hire to bring in Tashard Choice. But that running back room that was a gut punch. And so, as with anything, if you've got a coach that you feel like is making you better, is bringing a little extra special sauce to the recipe, there's going to be some heartbreak. And, I haven't been able to get in touch with a couple sources I'm trying to get in touch with, because the NFL doesn't typically pay what Tashard Choice was making at Texas. $800,000 for a running backs coach in the NFL is not, it's not common. And I know there's talk of Chip Kelly making $6 million with the Raiders. God, I hope that's not true. How dumb is Mark Davis if that is true? But
what you mean? What? You saw what Chip Kelly just did. Chip Kelly just got Ohio State over the hump, right? His job was on the line. And you know who saved the day? Oh, Chip K.
Oh, really? Chip Kelly had that stupid game plan against Michigan.
Yeah, but he fixed it, though. Nobody cares about that.
He fixed it, but those players were there long before he got there. Chip Kelly didn't recruit those players. Chip Kelly, he just jumped on a speeding bullet.
Oh, man, you hating.
Hell yeah, I'm hating. That dude destroyed the Philadelphia Eagles, destroyed the San Francisco 49ers, dragged UCLA along like that dog in the movie Vacation behind the car bumper.
People can change. Come on. Chip Kelly used to be one of the best football minds around. Them Oregon days, Marcus Mariota winning Heisman.
And then our Broyles offense came in and started doing laps around the Chip Kelly, spread running attack. But
Chip Kelly back on.
Exactly.
He's back on, baby.
Killer. But it makes you wonder, Zay, if Tashard Choice, who's got a young family, if it's about, not being on the road as much and being home with your family. Maybe this is a strategic move to, raise his family, and then he thinks about what he wants. Everyone is always like, why is Matt Campbell still at Iowa State? He wants to raise his family in a nice community, and he wants his kids to go to the same schools and grow up with their friends. And I see you being all skeptical, but that's true. That is exactly why. That's why he's still there.
Ames a nice community is crazy.
Well,
has those words ever been said?
Listen, he's from the Midwest. He went to Mount Union in Ohio.
Okay.
That's what he knows. He's never been south of freaking Ames, Iowa.
Yeah, he's a low maintenance guy.
He's right. He's a guy who's grown up with winters and the Midwest and all that, fall colors. So as soon as I heard this news, I was like, oh man, this one doesn't quite add up unless it's for a personal reason. And I did talk to someone who's close to Tashard Choice, but who said that they think that's what it is. And if that's the case, then great. Good on you. Good for doing what's right for your family, because it's a different world in the NFL. And Tashard Choice knows that. He played in the NFL. But he did coach Jahmyr Gibbs. He recruited Jahmyr Gibbs to Georgia Tech. He coached him up. And then when Tashard Choice left Georgia Tech for Texas, Jahmyr Gibbs left for Alabama. Now they'll be reunited. And that's, obviously Tashard Choice has faith in Dan Campbell, because I've been a little busy, but have the Lions hired an offensive coordinator?
Not that I know of. I don't think so. I think they're still in that process of trying to get somebody ever since.
Okay, wait, they hired John Morton.
John Morton.
Okay. John Morton was with the Denver Broncos.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I missed that. But hey, you know me, I gotta speculate. I gotta keep things a little spicy on here because all that family stuff's cool. It's a sweet story. You know, he wants to go off to the NFL. He has youngins. He doesn't want to be traveling all the time. But all I think of is you got the ball on the 1 yard line and you can't put it in the end zone. And Steve Sarkisian's out here calling plays, and you got dogs back there that want that opportunity, like Contravian Wisner, like Jared Gibson. Hell, I'll throw Jaden Blue in there, even though he might be a little light in the ass for those type of situations. Run it again. You get stopped on the 1 yard line, Jared Gibson jumbo package, run it again. We all know what happened. Toss. You think Tashard Choice was cool with that? I get it. What Sark says goes. He's head honcho, CEO. That's why he getting paid that 10 mil plus. But if I'm Tashard Choice and I'm on the sideline, what am I here for? You don't believe in my guys enough? You don't believe in my room enough to give them the ball 3 more times, going north and south? I got a problem with that. That's just me. I can't speak for Tashard Choice. You know Tashard Choice, he's going to keep it professional. We'll never know what the true, story is on why he went off to Detroit to coach your Lions. But all I could think about is a coach not believing in me and Steve Sarkisian and believing in my guys and how hard we work. Those guys deserve a different opportunity. And yeah, it could have went Arch Manning. They could have went tush push. We've talked about this before. But tall sweep, that wasn't in on second down. If I'm Tashard Choice, I'm like, yo, coach, run it again. We got this. Run it again. We got this. They stopped us once. Can they do it again? Let's see if they can do it again. North and south. We're not trying to go east-west. North and south. Moves like that can mess up everything. Everything. Now Tashard Choice looking at Sark different. Like, man, he ain't believing my guys. He ain't believing me. That's one of those moments. Sark should have been like, yo, I got to trust the running backs here. If we can't get 1 yard, ramming it down their damn throat, then what we doing? What's the point? That wasn't a good look. So you know me, I had to get a little petty on there. But what came to my mind was that. The family stuff, that's real cute. As women say, the TikTok era, very demure, whatever the hell they be talking about. I ain't having all that. That play's going to haunt us forever. Sandlot style, forever. Never forget that. So, our choice, that might be on this mod ship, just saying.
Well, give us your thoughts on the comments on the YouTube channel, and please like and subscribe the Texas Sports Unfiltered YouTube channel. It's how we grow. And join in on the Circuit of the Americas text line. Put this in your phone, kids, along with that alarm to go off at 2:00 Central every weekday for you to join in with us. This is your show. We're just moderating. But the CODA text line is 512-222-9328. Give us your thoughts on Tashard Choice leaving Texas to join the staff of the Detroit Lions. Lots to get into. Steve Sarkisian hired another coach, but 14 Texas Longhorns invited to the NFL Combine today. Quinn Ewers, Jaden Blue, Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, Gunnar Helm, Kelvin Banks, Hayden Connor, Jake Majors, Cam Williams, Vernon Broughton, Barron Sorrell, Alfred Collins, Jade Barron, and Andrew Makuba. I was a little bummed out for my man Jermaine Lole, but he's old. He's older. He's gonna have to grind it out, do it the hard way.
Yeah,
no
Silas Bolden too.
No Silas Bolden, right? Silas Bolden. He's going to make an NFL roster. I'm telling you. I'm just telling you. So he's got to have a great pro day. That's that, you know? Yeah. Silas Bolden, God bless you, because you did everything you were asked to do, and you didn't get rewarded. I thought he didn't get enough touches.
No, Sark was acting like he was taking L'Oreal on dates and stuff on the side, the way that he wasn't getting played. What's going on?
I don't know.
I'd be pissed. If I'm Silas Bolden, I'd be pissed, because you're right. Like, what didn't he do besides be a team player? Like, I get it. He got here in the summer, and those early enrollee transfers had to jump on him. But once Isaiah Bond became unreliable, you should have done everything into your ability to get Silas Bolden up to speed and to just put him in that spot to where this offense could be even more dynamic. Because as good as Matthew Golden was, DeAndre Moore, Gunnar Helm, they were still missing something when Isaiah Bond went out. And Silas Bolden, what can't he do? The opportunities that he had, he made big plays. Like, go back and watch that punt return. Peach Bowl against Arizona State. The dude's special. The dude has just a special gear with the ball in his hands that not too many guys have. But you got to give him the rock. You got to give him opportunities. Like, were we afraid Ryan Wingo was going to transfer or something if he wasn't getting those looks? I don't know what it is. Still a weird decision to me, though, because Silas Bolden proved over and over again, oh, this guy's pretty damn good. Arch Manning improvising and throwing that pitch. Silas Bolden having to dive in the end zone for the catch. Silas Bolden going back to the Oklahoma game, outrunning Danny Stutzman after the Contravian Wisner fumble and changing history at the Red River Shootout. What are we talking about here? And what the combine people are looking at is, oh, this guy, look at the stats. Why would we invite him? He's taking up a spot. When I'm right there with you, Chip, I think he completely deserves to be on the team. Like, obviously, he's going to have to earn it, but I think he's going to be able to do that because somebody on an NFL coaching staff is going to realize, yo, this dude, what the hell were you doing, Steve Sarkisian? Why weren't you playing this guy? Like, I still don't really understand the Silas Bolden thing. We'll never know at this point why he didn't get more reps, but Steve Sarkisian did a lot of good things this year, obviously getting this team to the college football playoff, one game away from the national championship. Not playing Silas Bolden as much as he did or did not, that was a bad move.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, but this kid has been just grinding away. This is just another incentive for a kid like Silas Bolden. He will not get discouraged. He will just prepare even harder. He'll put on a show at pro day. He'll probably be undrafted, but I guarantee you he'll make a roster because the guy plays bigger than he is. He makes plays. He can, he finally got his return for a touchdown, and he was a good return guy at Oregon State. I mean, the NFL will remember him from Oregon State, where he had some really big games, including that game against then number 10 Utah in 2023, where he was the offense. 6 catches, 100 yards, a touchdown through the air. He had a 41-yard touchdown run on 4th down in a game that was, 21-10. So, but the others, Hayden Connor, good for him getting in. Jake Majors, good to see him getting to go to the combine. A lot of people, had doubted Jake Majors. Guy, all he did was start for 5 years. He's got the record for starts, 57 at Texas, and super consistent. I could see Jake Majors getting on a roster and grinding it out, whether it's as a a rotational guy or as a starter. I mean, he's capable of playing center, guard. He'll do whatever he needs to do. Hayden Connor can play center, guard, and tackle. That versatility matters.
For sure.
So 14, Zay, 11 Texas Longhorns were drafted last year. That was the most since 1984. You got 14 at the combine this year. So watch out.
No, they're representing. They're representing. I love this stat, CB. Only 3 Aggies got shows, while the Horns tripled that. Like, that's pretty bonkers, man. And again, Steve Sarkisian, this coaching staff, they have every right to be proud of these guys and the hard work that they've done. And again, you got to shout out the coaching staff for the development, because we knew what it was 10 years ago. You know, guys barely getting in, Texas players not getting an opportunity because the record was trash. Like, your individual success comes with your team success. Like, that's just what it is. So for these guys to get an opportunity to live out their dream and change their families' lives by getting into the National Football League, it's pretty damn cool. And again, talking about Silas Bolden and, you know, who'd you just say before him that didn't get it? You said someone. Just slipped my mind.
What?
Who else didn't get an invite? Jermaine Lole.
Jermaine Lole.
Yeah,
I thought Lole was really good, but he's 25. So
that's old.
Yeah. He was a 7th year player. He started his career in 2018, but he had 2 years off because of injury. But guy can play. He'll have to do it at pro day and probably do it as an undrafted free agent in camp.
What about Bill Norton too?
Yeah. Bill Norton, big guy, big body. Another guy who could make an NFL roster as an undrafted free agent. I mean, we're talking about maybe 15, 16 Longhorns going into the league. That's impressive, man. It's a lot. Lots of news to get to. Obviously, Steve Sarkisian has hired Mark Orphey, the cornerbacks coach at Rutgers, to join the Texas defensive staff. I like this hire, Zay, because I got in touch with Jeff Choate last night, and Jeff Choate had Mark Orphey on his staff at Montana State as the secondary coach. And Jeff Choate told me, low ego, high output guy who took chances to further his career along, makes good ties with recruits and their families. He's from Houston. He played at Galena Park North Shore. So you tap into the North Shore, you're tapping into some of the best talent in the state of Texas. Mark Orphey played. He was an all-district player at Galena Park North Shore. He went to Texas Southern, where he was a 3-year starter.
Okay,
and then started his coaching career the year after he stopped playing, right there at Texas Southern. And he was a quality control guy for Steve Spurrier and Will Muschamp at South Carolina before he went to Montana State and then Utah State and then to Alabama as a defensive analyst under Nick Saban in 2021, 1 year after Sark left. But he's a high energy guy. I think he was ready to get back to Texas. He'd been, in a lot of northern states, Montana and Utah and New Jersey for 3 years. Those winters will get you. But yeah, I mean, look, anytime you can get on at Texas, it's a huge opportunity. And Mark Orphey, I think this is a good hire. Another high energy guy. You got to keep bringing in high energy guys. Blake Gideon was a young, high energy guy. This is a young man's game, Zay, and with the recruiting calendar kind of being year round, you got to have guys who are still hungry and on the way up, because you don't want guys who are tired. You don't want guys who are not burning to recruit and to sell the Texas Longhorns program and keep building recruiting classes like the one they just signed in the #1 class in 2025.
Yeah. It's a grind, man. Like, that's why talking about Tashard Choice and him moving to the NFL, that grind's different. You go on vacation because that's what the GM's job's to do, is to bring in players in the draft and bring in guys as free agents and make trades. That front office, like, you're that as a coach in college football. So for Mark Orphey coming in, who couldn't be more than 38 years old, if that, yeah, this is a guy that's still getting skins on the wall as a young up-and-coming coach, but also has a lot on his resume since he graduated Texas Southern in 2010. Like you just mentioned, Spurrier, Will Muschamp, like Rutgers, their secondary has been pretty good, like all things considered. Like that's why he got the job, and Steve Sarkisian trusts him to come and fill in for Blake Gideon. And you're playing with some pretty stud safeties if you're Mark Orphey. Like when you look over at the roster and you see guys like Mookie Taft, which Mookie Taft is just another coach on the field. I talk about that all the time. I think once Mookie Taft's career is over, which he'll have a little stint in the NFL, he'll probably become a coach. It's just a matter of time. You can hear it the way that he talks and the way that he expresses himself and pressers and stuff. And then you got Jelani McDonald, Derek Williams coming back, Jordan Johnson Rebel, and don't forget the freshmen coming in, Jonah Williams, who knows about him, because right now he's getting ready for baseball. You're going to check him out down there and, Rangers Town. But, yeah, I like this get. Steve Sarkisian, he's done a really good job when guys leave, like Jeff Cho, bringing in guys like Johnny Nansen and stuff. Like, this is Texas. Like, you should be able to get the cream of the crop. People want to be here. People love the atmosphere that the 512 provides. And as you said, like, when you coach in the Big Ten, a lot of cold, snowy, wintry days.
Yeah, you may try to recruit Texas at Rutgers, but that's a really hard sell. Yeah. I mean, the only way you're selling Rutgers in the state of Texas is if the big schools are overlooking somebody. But like Jordan Scruggs of Texas Sports Unfiltered and Horns 24/7 just put out a crystal ball for Galena Park North Shore safety, Chase Calicut. Just put in a crystal ball for the Texas Longhorns for Chase Calicut, who's a top, he's ranked 170 in the class of 2026, a 6'3", 190-pound safety who's being recruited by Bama.
Has
LSU
even got off the plane yet? Damn.
No, but that Galena Park North Shore, that bond is real.
It's real.
Hey, they talking to each other.
Yeah,
they're talking the same language.
Yeah.
So, and Orphey's smooth, man.
JW, you're right. No doubt.
Yeah, that was the other guy.
What are we doing?
Yeah. So that's David Benda's an older guy.
Yeah, he old as hell.
He's 23 going on 24.
But he's look, wise though.
Jameis Winston was an older guy, but he was a talented quarterback.
Yeah, he kind of won the Heisman. That's kind of hard to overlook.
Benda will make an NFL roster. So there's what, 17? I mean, he may not get drafted. He may. He may light it up at Pro Day. David Benda has come a long way. That's a confident dude, man. I remember when he was wide-eyed and, I think I know what I'm doing. Now he knows what he's doing. It was like watching Baron Sorrell at the Senior Bowl. Baron Sorrell was in total command of his game.
Animal.
He was bull rushing dudes and then jerking them. He was ripping. He seemed to have the right move for every pass rush, and he showed an array of moves. That's why he was named the defensive lineman of the Senior Bowl. We need to get Jim Nagy on the show now that his world is slowed down a little. The executive director of the Senior Bowl, get him to talk about Baron Sorrell, but because our man Barry Sorrell, where's Barry? Barry, come on, man.
Barry make the jump from 2 to 4.
Great 88. Come on, Barry. Tell us you're here making the jump with us from 1 to 3 to 2 to 4. Because Baron's in full command of his game. I'm excited to see what he does in the league. I think he's going to be underrated.
For sure. He
is a powerful man, and he knows how to get to the quarterback. This is, you see Charles Omenihu. Charles Omenihu was a late bloomer at Texas. He kind of put it all together in his last year. He had 9 sacks, that crazy length Omenihu has. Now look at him. Omenihu's been in the league for almost a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Won a Super Bowl ring with the Chiefs, played for another one, and he's had himself a good NFL career. Let's see what Charles Omenihu's made in the league. See what my man.
They did a good job stopping Saquon.
Yeah.
Like Charles, what else does he have to do? I mean, it just not his fault that Chiefs offense couldn't do anything, and they kept putting that defense in horrible field position with Patrick Mahomes turnovers and stuff. Not getting it on 4th down. Next play, you hit the deep post for DeVonta Smith, which was a crazy ball by Jalen Hurts. That was one of the prettier balls you're ever going to see. That was right in the breadbasket.
Yeah, he was in the zone.
He was, man. He was. See, that's what I'm saying. He's so easy to hate. I'm coming around to Jalen Hurts. I know, but it's
Jalen Hurts.
I know, man.
Easy to hate.
Yes, you can't be that pretty and have everything so put together, fam. How?
Okay,
How? You have to have some flaws, bro.
You mean petty? You mean pettiness? Yes. Pettiness hate.
Yeah, pettiness hate. You have no flaws, 0.
Well, he got benched.
Lights now, googly eyed over the brother, and I'm like, damn.
He got
out here rocking the Jordan Loop earring and stuff. Not too many cats can rock the Jordan Loop earring. He just pulls it off like it's nothing. You hear him mic'd up talking to all the guys after the game. He on his, hey, fat lady don't sing. It ain't over to the fat lady sing stuff. Just keeping it together, smiling a little bit, but also knowing that, hey, this ain't it for me. I got more Super Bowls to come. I'm like, damn, bruh. You really got it like that.
Speaking of Jalen Hurts, it's Thursday, so we go to Birmingham, Alabama to talk to our good friend, Lance Taylor of Next Round Live and Lance'sLock.com, our SEC insider and prognosticator. LT, how you doing?
Hey, fellas. I'm doing good. So I heard you talking about Jalen Hurts. Finally hit a Super Bowl, had the right side, and did well with our player props. And so very boring game. I don't know who you guys were pulling for, who you had your money on, but, man, I didn't mind it. But, man, if you didn't have a rooting interest or if you were pulling for the Chiefs, that was a tough game to watch.
How about the fact that no Alabama or Texas player had scored a touchdown in a Super Bowl until Super Bowl 59?
Yeah, I did not realize Texas. Now, it had been played up a little bit with the Alabama on our side, and Then obviously Jalen, scores first touchdown of Super Bowl 59, and then Xavier Worthy has his. But man, that's amazing when you think about all of the pros that both of those institutions have just, popped out. Pretty nuts.
Yeah, and so Bama gets 2 players, DeVonta Smith with a touchdown and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, hey, why not? And you know what's crazy? This is so full circle, all of this. And, I just had lunch with some guys, and we were talking about, I don't know if you've ever seen a more out of whack 10 years, not even less than 10-year, playing arc for a player than you've seen with Jalen Hurts. I mean, he didn't start game 1 at Alabama. And I'll tell you what got us into this conversation. I was doing our Bama and Bourbon podcast today where we, try different bourbon every week, and then we talk, Bama sports. And the guy that does it with me is part of the collective for Alabama, and he used to be the beat writer, one of the beat writers for Alabama. And I was talking about, you were on the beat back the last.
Who's that?
Guy named Aaron Suttles. Do you know Aaron?
Yeah.
Yeah, great guy. But Suttles was telling me, we were just talking about the quarterback situation and Ryan Grubb and everything, and he's like, I said, the last time Alabama fans didn't know who the starting quarterback going into the season was, literally until a couple of weeks before the first game, was in 2016 when Blake Barnett got the start in Dallas against USC and quickly was replaced by Jalen Hurts. So Jalen Hurts from day one was never the projected starter. He gets ripped out of a national championship game at halftime. He ultimately transfers as a Heisman Trophy finalist. He basically is shitted on by everybody as far as I heard the arguments going, a couple of weeks ago that this was going to be one of the, maybe top 5 worst quarterbacks to ever win a Super Bowl if Jalen Hurts won this. And so it's just been all over the place with the opinions on Jalen Hurts, and now he's a Super Bowl MVP. But, man, his career has just been all over the place. But you got to give that kid a lot of credit.
Yeah, he's likable.
Yeah.
Zay's not sure, because I remember
No.
asking me, and I brought it up a couple of times. Well, you just asked straight up, it's almost rehearsed, or I forgot how you framed it. Some of the things he says, is he really that authentic?
Yeah.
And everybody says he is. I mean, he is super cool, and it's like the moment's never too big for that guy.
Yeah, I see it, and I believe it now. I've came around, Lance, to seeing what he did at the Super Bowl and how the guy carries himself. He's 100. But did you ever think that he would have a better NFL career than Tua Tagovailoa?
No. Or, Bryce Young is still undecided and incomplete, just barely 2 seasons into his NFL career. And, to me, the best quarterback, and I've said this before on interviews and talking to different people, the best quarterback I've ever seen play in a Crimson uniform was Bryce Young. I think Tua was right there, but I thought Bryce was an overall better quarterback. So we'll see what he does. But, I mean, right now it's slam dunk. I mean, I think I don't want to say that. I was going to say maybe you could start to make an argument that he's had the greatest career of any Alabama quarterback. And I know Oklahoma fans, they're going to take credit to that. Yeah, I mean, and you can claim him. I mean, he's got an Alabama degree, but I will stick with this. I think if he never plays for Lincoln Riley, I don't know if he's playing in the NFL. But with all that said, I think it's close to saying, I mean, Joe Namath is Joe Namath, and we have Bart Starr, and then Kenny Stabler. So I'm not ready to say that yet, because we're talking about 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. But I mean,
what about Mac Jones?
No, he's better than Mac Jones. Now that season, standalone season, Mac Jones' 2020 might be the best. Now he had DeVonta Smith and Jerry Jeudy and Jalen Waddle and Henry Ruggs. So, there's a little bit of difference there when you've got 4 first-round guys at the
Najee Harris.
Yeah, yeah.
Bama had 3 Heisman finalists that year. Mac Jones, Najee Harris, DeVonta Smith, and DeVonta Smith is the winner.
Yeah, and I will say, man, the skill at Bama has changed a lot. Still a lot of talent there, but, man, I just don't know if you'll ever see that. As good as Ohio State was this year. Jeremiah Smith and Abuka and Cornell Tate. I mean, you talk about, I'll never forget this, and I'm all over the place, but I think it was which Hasselbeck? Tim Hasselbeck doing Sunday NFL primetime or whatever. And he was just showing Mac Jones his rookie season. And like when he was going through it to explain what the formation was, he was like, and there's Jalen Waddle, and there's Henry Ruggs, and there's DeVonta Smith, and there's Jerry Jeudy. And he's like, my God, no wonder this guy had success at Alabama. And it is true. Like, I don't think you'll ever see 4 first-round picks on the field together, in a college game. I just don't think you'll see that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about DeVonta Smith a little bit, because that catch that he had to make it 34-0, that was basically the icing on the cake. And I thought he was going to be good, but I didn't think he was going to be this good. And like, say what you want. Yeah, he's a wide receiver too on the other side of A.J. Brown, but coming off the Heisman, now being the Super Bowl champ, like all he's seen is winning. Just talk about his career up to this point, going back to his days playing for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, Zay, I think he might have had the most dominant season in Alabama history at any position. Like Derek Thomas would be a guy before they registered sacks. I forgot how many, he was credited with. Derrick Henry had an incredible year winning a Heisman Trophy, and I forgot it was like 318 carries or something. But DeVonta Smith, I mean, I don't know how much you guys remember the 2020 National Championship, the season he won the Heisman Trophy, but against Ohio State, like in the first half, he had like 170 yards and like 2 or 3 touchdowns. And he got hurt.
175 yards and 3 touchdowns the first half.
Yeah, I mean, he would have had like over 300 yards, and hell, who knows how many touchdowns. Like, you could not defend him back in the day. And so I thought he was going to be good. I mean, nicknamed Slim Reaper because the guy might be $165. I mean, you just can't keep weight on him. But, man, he is just crafty. And, that grab, it was a great throw, but I forgot who the defender was, but had hand right in there. So it ultimately was a great catch. But everybody expected him to make that catch. But, man, DeVonta Smith, Zay, back to your question, just incredible player. I think, the first time Alabama fans, and look, Alabama fans are diehard, so they remember the kid getting recruited. But that first really big moment was the walk-off in overtime in the 2017 National Championship against Georgia. So kids always made big plays, very humble, very low-key. And it was nice to see him and Jalen both have a lot of success this past Sunday.
Yeah. Lance, I don't know what to make of Nick Sirianni. Like, I don't know if even his own players like him, but they obviously like each other. They play for each other. Is this the biggest lightweight coach to win a Super Bowl? What are we thinking of Nick Sirianni?
I don't know. I mean, he's not a likable guy. You remember his, initial press conference? He was so overwhelmed. He was basically shaking, had to apologize for his players after that. But the guy in his first 4 seasons has been to the postseason all 4 years. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won a Super Bowl now. And I saw a stat, and I forgot exactly what it was, so I'm going to butcher this. But the point's going to be the company he's with. And maybe it was through 4 seasons to be to 2 Super Bowls, to have a 70% winning percentage, and to have a Super Bowl championship. I think the only 2 other guys to do that are Vince Lombardi and John Madden. So he is in rare air right now. But we'll see what happens. Philadelphia, they're so fickle with everything. Doug Peterson won their first ever championship, and he was fired a couple of years later. I think this thing would resonate a lot more with Philly fans if Nick Foles hadn't beaten Tom Brady a few years ago. I think it was 2017, and won that championship. But, man, I don't know what to think about Sirianni. Again, not a likable guy, but he's got a lot of success.
Yeah. Where do the Chiefs go from here, Lance? Because the way they got rolled, I know you can never close the window on the team when Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, but Travis Kelce clearly on his last leg. Who knows how many years Andy Reid has in him? Where do the Chiefs go from here?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, your leading rusher this past Sunday was Pat Mahomes with 24 yards. I mean, the offense, and that score is not even close to being indicative of what it was. I had a really good day Sunday. I did have the under 47.5, 48.5, wherever it went off, and ends up basically flying over with 62 points based on those garbage touchdowns. But they couldn't run the football. Pacheco looked like he was going to be something last year. I don't know what they think about Pacheco moving forward. Travis Kelce is a shell of himself. Don't even know if he'll play. I do like Xavier Worthy's got a huge upside. Like I still think that kid is learning the position. Obviously, the tackles have been a problem, and that really got exposed on Sunday against Philadelphia. So I think you've got to do something outside with the offensive line. I mean, you're obviously great with Pat Mahomes, but they still need another weapon or two. They've got a great coach in Andy Reid. I still think the defense is really good, although it did get shredded on Sunday. I don't know. It's been amazing, Zay, that this team has been in the situation as much as it has been when you look at all of the other talent in the AFC, especially. And like moving forward, like if I asked you guys, would you take Pat Mahomes to be in another Super Bowl, or would you take one of these first-time guys, whether it's Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, or even Joe Burrow trying to win his first Super Bowl? Obviously played in one in 2021. But I think I would lean some of these other guys getting an opportunity. And I know we're in the moment, so it's easy to say now. But like, if Pat Mahomes never wins another one, it wouldn't shock me. And I know that sounds crazy.
Well, what'd you think of Kendrick Lamar?
I thought it was okay. I mean, I like Kendrick Lamar. He's not like one of my favorites. And a lot of this has to do with the fact the Rams won the Super Bowl too. But I grew up with Snoop and Dre. And Eminem a little bit, and I think that Super Bowl 56 halftime show was so much better.
Yeah.
I think it kind of fell flat, but I don't know.
How about the Alabama Crimson Tide basketball team hitting 17 threes against Texas?
Yeah, look, that team and guys like Jaron Stevenson who have done nothing this year shows up. That Alabama team hasn't been as good as they've been in the past behind the arc. They've missed a lot of those shots. They turn the ball over a lot. But I don't know if you guys realize this, being newbies to the SEC. This is the first ever regular season matchup with number 1 versus number 2 this Saturday in Coleman Coliseum in Tuscaloosa with number 1 Alabama and number 2 Auburn. That is hard to believe when you look at the history of Kentucky. Alabama's had outside of championship moments, as far as in the NCAA tournament, Alabama, Tennessee basketball, Florida's won, back-to-back national championships back in the 2000s. Like, it's just hard to believe this will be the first ever 1 versus 2 in the SEC.
Yeah. Who you got in that game, and will you be there?
I'm undecided. I don't think I'm going to go. Way too much hype. Like, I just ran into a bunch of my clients at lunch, and everybody's going. Everybody's excited. There's a lot of things going on campus. This is by far the biggest regular season basketball game I've ever seen in this state. I never thought we would live to a point that number 1 versus number 2. With all that said, I think Alabama. Somebody sent me that Auburn was a favorite last night. I would have listed Alabama -1.5. We'll see the official number come out tomorrow night. But I kind of like Auburn for a couple of reasons. Florida ran them last weekend. They were due a loss. Florida gave it to them. Florida's playing extremely well. And then Alabama hitting the 17 threes the other night. What are the chances they can hit at that level again? So I lean that Auburn will squeeze one out. But I think it's going to be a hell of a game. And I really don't know who the best team in college basketball is. I think Alabama and Auburn are right there. I think Duke is still right there, although they're coming off that loss to Clemson. And the Florida Gators getting healthy. Watch out for that team. Florida's really, really good under Todd Golden.
Yeah. What do you make of the coaching carousel in the NFL? Who won? Who lost? What team took a step forward? Which one took a step back? Like, are the Raiders really paying Chip Kelly $6 million?
I find that
That's
hard
the
to believe.
dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, so stupid. And that seems like outside of the pay, let's take the pay back. But such a lateral move going from the national champion Ohio State to one of the worst current organizations in all of sports in the Raiders. So I don't understand the move at all unless it really was $6 million. I think the biggest loser in all of this is the Dallas Cowboys / Kellen Moore. Like, how Dallas goes in-house with Brian Schottenheimer, where they probably could have had Kellen Moore, who's very familiar with that organization, and that is a much better roster, and he leaves Philadelphia to go to New Orleans. Like, maybe good for New Orleans, but I just think Dallas could have had a better coach in Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore could have had a better job. And to go to New Orleans, where they're in quarterback purgatory right now with Carr, I don't know what they're going to do, moving forward there. It's not a very good roster. And I'm just really surprised he took that job. Like, I would have sat out one more year with the world champion Eagles, made a couple of $1 million. And then again, he's going to be another hot commodity. It's not like that offense is going to go in the tank. So I think he would have gotten another opportunity next year with another 5, 6, 7 jobs that open and take a stab at a better organization. But, he got the opportunity, he took it. And I love it because I'm anti-Saints. And I just don't think that's going to work out. But if I was Kellen Moore, I would have done everything in my power to try to find a way to get that Dallas job.
Yeah, how about the Dallas Cowboys? Kellen Moore wins a Super Bowl. Dan Quinn gets to the divisional playoff round.
NFC Championship.
NFC Championship. I mean, and the Cowboys are like, wait, those guys were with us.
Yeah. Yeah, Cowboy. Hey, I did this exercise. You guys think about this. You can steal it if you want, if you guys get bored. But it just came up on the fly. We're in the middle of the show. And I was like, if you could bet on one organization, this is life or death. Like, your life is expanded as long as they don't win a championship. As long as they don't win a Super Bowl, World Series title, NBA championship, Stanley Cup. And like, I just immediately went with the Cincinnati Reds. I don't know why, but I still feel good about that. Like, I really don't believe in the next 50 years, a small market team like Cincinnati can win a World Series championship. If they win it next year, I'm dead. But I will take my chances moving forward that I will live as long as Cincinnati doesn't win another championship. Is there a team that you guys would take a flyer on that and be like, dude, I feel really good about 25, 30 years. NFL would be tough because if you get a Pat Mahomes at quarterback, you never know what's going to happen. I think baseball, medium, small market would be the way to go. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
Probably true.
Or the Clippers, right?
I'd say the Clippers or the Trailblazers. They mucked up not getting Jordan back in '84, and they're picking Sam Bowie, and then they mucked up on getting Greg Oden over Kevin Durant. So
they actually were better than the Lakers in 1999. Game 7.
Yeah.
They had the Lakers dead and buried, down 7 with, I think, 3.5 minutes to go, and Kobe to Shaq, and they took that game over. But, man, those Trailblazer teams were legit back in the day, as were the Sacramento Kings. And some organizations just can't get over the hump.
Yeah. Do you have a take on the Luka trade?
I'm like everybody else. I'm baffled that you've got one of the 3, 4, 5 best players in the world at 25 years old, and you're able to trade him. If I'm a Mavericks fan, I'm sick at my stomach. I love Anthony Davis. He was like, I'm not a big LeBron guy. Anthony Davis was one of my favorite Lakers, and I loved how he plays, all out, both sides of the court all the time. So Luka is definitely a transition from that. I mean, watching him last night against Utah, it really is the old man in a pickup game that is smoking a cigarette, flicks the cigarette off, walks out there, doesn't want to skin off, or really doesn't.
Oh, we lost you. We lost you were cruising along beautifully.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Oh, it's like you hit the mute button.
Yeah, but he didn't.
Player coming into the door. Am I still off?
No, now you're back on.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened. But I was just saying, Luka's the guy that flicks a cigarette, walks out, goes for 30 in a pickup game, goes for 30 in an NBA game. Just weird watching him try to maneuver out there because the guy does look tubby, looks completely out of shape, but he's just an incredible player. And I still am shocked that trade went down.
Yeah. All right. What's going on at lanceslock.com?
7 plays up and available tonight. 1 in the NBA, 6 college basketball. $100 gets you the entire month. You can jump on. You can do daily packages, weekend packages. We'll have a March Madness package coming up sooner than later. Free play every day available right now. lanceslock.com.
All right, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you guys be good. I will jump on next week.
Appreciate you, Lance.
Looking forward to it. All right. There he is. LT Lance Taylor. Lanceslock.com for the picks. You know what I'm saying? Zay, we've touched on Tashard Choice to the Detroit Lions. We've touched on 14 Longhorns going to the NFL Combine. We've touched on Mark Orphey joining the Texas Longhorns defensive staff in the secondary. and it's a little unclear exactly how the duties will be divided between he and Terry Joseph, but I have heard that Terry Joseph is on board with Mark Orphey, and that they've got a good there's a good vibe there between those two. And as I mentioned, Jeff Choate, who I think is a fantastic coach, had hired Mark Orphey to be his secondary coach at Montana State, called him a low ego, high output coach who connects well with players, connects with recruits, took chances to move his career forward, and is very excited to be back in his home state of Texas.
Hell yeah. Like Jersey, like that's rough.
Especially this time of year.
Yeah, besides the gabagoo and the Italian, like you're in Sopranos territory. Like that don't seem like much fun. It's not as glamorous as New York City is, even though it's right up the road. Like Jersey's still Jersey. It's grimy as hell. So, like, yeah, if I'm a Texan, I'd be happy to come back to Texas too if I'm Mark Orgy. By the way, talking to Jeff Choate, how was that? Like, how's he doing? First year head coach, Nevada. Like,
he's doing good.
Okay,
he's doing good. That guy, he just brings the thunder wherever he's at. He's such a good evaluator of talent. He just knows what he's doing. And I mean, they had some knockdown dragouts this year. They almost beat SMU. He's going to get that thing going in the right. It is already going in the right direction, but I think he'll get it going. I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting a better job here soon. So, speaking of Luka, did you see Nico Harrison at the SMU game?
Yeah, they were booing the hell out of his ass.
They were chanting "Fire Nico."
Yeah,
the student section at the SMU basketball game.
I don't know why he's going anywhere in Dallas. Like, you need to just be cooped up at the crib, maybe to the facilities. Make sure you got them Kevin Costner bodyguards with you, and hope and pray that the Mavericks make you look good, because right now it's not. Anthony Davis being out for possibly a month, which, Lance said AD was one of his favorite players because he played so hard. JW saying that he thought AD was lazy at times. I see both. I can see why Lance says that, especially Lance being an SEC guy and seeing Anthony Davis at his peak for John Calipari and that Kentucky team that won it all. And then I've also seen AD just look like absolute trash, look timid, look soft. And again, he's always dealing with some type of injury, but he tries to play through it the best that he can. So I can't knock him too much, because playing hurt, that says a lot about your character. Not many guys are willing to do that. It's just the quantity of him being hurt all the time. Like, that's the issue. It's all the time. His whole career, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy long enough. Like, hell, in the bubble, he got hurt towards the end, but LeBron was still playing at that elite level, and their team overall for Frank Vogel was just that stacked. They had Caruso, and Dwight Howard was good then, and Danny Green would knock down three. Spurs fans definitely remember Danny Green and what he brought to the table. Like, that team was really freaking good. So Anthony Davis, as good as he was during that bubble tournament, even though he was hurt, they were fine, and they were able to, beat the crap out of the Heat and everybody else that was in their path. But yeah, that's just what you got to deal with AD. Like, the dude, when he's on the court, very productive. One of the best two-way players, top 75 player of all time, future Hall of Famer. You get that. It's just he ain't on the court very often. And every time he falls, every time he moves a certain way, and he's grimacing and holding something. You kind of just, twiddle your thumbs and thinking, damn, here we go again. That's just AD.
Well, that I see this before we get away from too far from Lance. And Jack says, Lance, are there people that make a living off just online sports betting? I need to make some extra money. Okay, so before you get into the gambling for extra money, read the book by Billy Walters, Gambler: Secrets from a Life at Risk. Because Billy Walters is probably the most successful sports bettor in the history of this country. And he had an algorithm, and it's a great read. It's a great read. But Billy Walters says, you got to know what you're doing. Like, you can't just be like, I got a hunch. You'll get killed. So you got to have an algorithm. You got to know what you're doing. And I would read that book. I wonder if we need to ask Lance if he's read that book. It's a great read. I mean, it's crazy. That guy's led a crazy life. And anytime you're in that world, it's crazy. But yeah, you got to know what you're doing, because if you're like, I got a hunch, and then you lose, and then you're like, well, I got to pay on Tuesday, so I got to chase this so that you go down a hole. Yeah. So you got to be careful. You got to know what you're doing. If you're betting $25 for fun, that's great. I know guys like that. If you're betting huh?
You're betting what? What are you saying?
I mean, if you're betting to try to buy a car, you better know what you're doing. You better have an algorithm. You better read Billy Walters' book, because I had a guy tell me, I've been talking sports for 20 years. I've been covering sports for 30 plus years. And I had a guy who used to be a bookie say, you're the perfect prospector for a bookie, because you think you know sports, so you think you should know how the games are going to come out, and you probably have just enough discretionary income to keep trying to prove that you know what you're doing. Meanwhile, you're losing your ass. So, like I said, if you're betting $25 a game to keep it fun and interesting, great. And if you got an algorithm or you got a system, I mean, great. But I saw that, and I've got a friend who has been betting since we were in college, and that 35 years ago. Okay. And I finally asked him, I said, how much do you think you've lost in betting over the years? And he goes, probably 30,000.
Ooh.
Think about that. Like, if you took that $25 and instead of betting it, put it in a savings account, think of where that money could be. I'm not trying to be a, Debbie Downer, buzzkill.
No, you're trying to save people's lives.
I'm trying to save people too, because I did have a college roommate who ended up going off the deep end, had to bring in his dad to bail him out, ended up going to Gamblers Anonymous. And what they tell you, if you have a problem, and if you have a problem, you have a problem. Like, if you're listening to me and you've been in it, you've been in that chase mode, and you're a jerk to everyone in your house, and you're just on edge all the time, you probably have a problem, or you've been there. But what he said was they tell you to write your bets down. Instead of making the bets, write down the bets that you wanted to make and see how they turn out. And you'll stop.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if you're betting $25 for the fun of it, great. That's fun. If you're, trying to make money, like that's the only reason I'm even talking about this, because, Jack's like, I need to make some extra money. Online sports betting is a tough way to go unless you got a system, unless you've,
Yeah,
really.
I don't want it to be a couple of months from now. We wondering, man, where'd Jack go?
Right.
Come on, Jack. Be smart, baby. Be smart, dog. There's other ways to go get it.
Right.
There's other ways to go get it. But
hey, go spend some of that money at Cover 3. You know what I'm saying? Go get you a Sean Adams prime rib sandwich. Hang out with your fellas and take in the Texas women's basketball game tonight. They're playing Kentucky, and this is a big game, man. This is a big game. 6 o'clock on ESPN2 tonight. Head over to Cover 3. Get you some brick chicken and mac and cheese, a Chop House burger. Enjoy that. That's still happy hour. You get there, 3:30 to 6:30. They got the $7 social hour menu. Go check out the Texas women tonight. They're playing number 11 Kentucky. This is the most difficult 3-game stretch of the season for the Texas women, who are now number 3 in the country. They just beat number 2 South Carolina. They got number 11 Kentucky tonight, and then number 6 or number 5, I believe, LSU on Sunday. So, and hey, if you're ready for the big screen of your dreams, there's only one call to make in Austin, Texas, and that is audio-visual consultations. And our man, Tom McKay. Tom is the pro. He's the best. He's the go-to guy. He's been putting, big screen TVs, surround sound into some of your favorite restaurants for years. He's put big screens into 3 different houses for me. And it's so simple. You are busy. You don't need to be lugging 80-inch TVs around town, punching holes in your drywall. Just call Tom at 255-8678, area code 512, and let Tom and his crew bring everything to you. They're the pros. They're going to make it nice and tidy. He's going to tell you what you need, what you don't need. I thought I needed a 100-inch screen. He's like, no, that's too big for that wall. You need an 85-inch. And so, he's not going to hammer you, but he's going to bring you the best price on big screens, surround sound, surveillance, electronic shades, new lighting. Give him a call, 255-8678, avconsultations.com. And Salt Traders Coastal Cooking, date night, Valentine's. There you go. There's your Valentine's get out of jail free card for tomorrow night. Make a reservation at Salt Traders Coastal Cooking if you can still get in. But right there at Zilker, best seafood restaurant in Austin. And don't take my word for it. Go experience it for yourself. It's going to become a regular stop for you, especially if you live anywhere near Zilker or up in Round Rock, right off Old Settlers. This is the seafood restaurant of Jack Gilmore, restaurant legend in Austin, who also gives you Jack Allen's Kitchen, which is just, it's the best. All right, Zay. We've got Texas baseball. We will hit on this real quick because I'll be up in Arlington tomorrow when we do the show, and I can break down some more stuff. But we do know who the starting pitcher is for Texas. It will be the lefty, Jared Spencer, the Indiana State transfer who went 6-0 last year with the Sycamores. And we do know the projected starting lineup, but our guy Adrian Rodriguez looks like he's going to be the starting shortstop. So some cool, exciting stuff going on with Texas baseball. And the other thing that I'll get into a little bit more tomorrow that I touched on a little bit yesterday is the Jim Schlossnagel's use of mental performance coaching to get his players to free their minds. And Schlossnagel, swears by this Kane mental performance coaching, and he thinks it pays instant dividends. So we'll see. Adrian Rodriguez at third base. Sorry, Jalen Flores at shortstop. You've got the ULM transfer, Easton Winfield, a guy who had batted .332 with 10 homers, 40 RBI, and left. Will Gasparino, who made a big splash last year in center, and then Max Ballou in right field. I mean, this is going to be a good baseball team, Zay. So Ryan Galvan at catcher, Kimball Schuessler at first, and Ethan Mendoza, transfer from Arizona State, who Schloss loaded up in the portal, mostly with arms. And another guy to keep an eye on is Kenny Harrison, because he was really good 2 years ago. And then he had Tommy John surgery, came back 3 years ago, 2022, and came back last year and struggled, had an ERA over 9. He's going to be your Saturday starter. And I think the coaches feel like they've really got him right. And so let's see how that looks, because Harrison is also a lefty. So Texas going lefty.
I like it. One of the bigger moves that Jim Schlossnagel's made is bringing Troy Tulowitzki back.
Yeah.
Like, I love Troy Tulowitzki. Like, I love his IQ, obviously his experience being in the show, and what he did those times with the Colorado Rockies, and the fact that obviously him and David Pierce didn't see eye to eye. So he said, you know what? This just isn't my time here. I love this university. I love Austin, Texas, but I don't agree with what David Pierce has going on. Like, it's just point blank period. That was the move. And once David Pierce got the boot, Jim Schlossnagel came in. It was like, yo, Tolo, what's popping? Tolo was like, all right, I'll come back. Like, you're talking my language. Like, we see eye to eye, because old Pierce was bugging. He really was, thinking that he'd just be the pitching coach and the team would get better. No, David, it got worse. Which is the reason why you're not here no more. So if you have somebody like Troy Tulowitzki on your roster, that's a huge plus. Like, guys, that's what they want to do. They want to make it to the big leagues, and someone who's been there and done that on the highest level like Tulowitzki has, I'm really excited him being back on the staff. I thought that was a good, very underrated move by Jim Schlossnagel.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, Troy Tulowitzki doesn't need to work another day in his life. He's made, over $100 million in baseball, but he loves baseball. And he is an unbelievable coach. Like, he knows how to teach. The players love him. I don't think Jim Schlossnagel knew how good Troy Tulowitzki was as a coach. Like, he knew he's a good player, but there are a lot of good players who can't coach because they don't know how to teach. They don't know how to relate. I think Schloss is like, whoa. Because I remember asking him about Tulo. This was right before Early got the A&M job. And so Schloss was like, yeah, I don't really have a spot for him. And then all of a sudden he did. And I think Del Conte was like, hey, you need to talk to this guy. And boom, And I think Tula wanted to learn about recruiting, and you're right, Zay. I mean, I don't think it's we're not out of school by saying that there were things that Tulo just didn't agree with in the way that David Pierce conducted himself. I don't think he liked the way that he handled his players last year or his assistant coaches. And Tulo,
he did Monty wrong too. Like,
what's that?
Monty? Am I getting the name right? Who's the old pitching coach that Pierce kicked out?
Oh, Woody Williams.
Woody Williams, excuse me. Like,
after 1 year.
1 year, that was it.
Yeah, really? Pierce. That when he did that, I was like, "Oh, David,
David,
you've lost all your insulation, bro, bruh."
That was tough.
And look, David Pierce knows baseball. He doesn't hire a staff that he empowers and trusts. He hires a staff that he can yell at, and A's hire A's and B's hire C's. He got lucky with Tulo. Houston Street set that up. Houston Street told literally, David, let me get Tulo on a 3-way call and y'all talk, because Tulo just called me and said he's, thinks he wants to get into coaching. And I'm like, come to Austin, come to Texas. And he did. And now I think he's coaching the hitters. Tulo's one of the best hitters of his generation, and he works with the infielders whether it's his job or not, because he's also a Gold Glove and a Silver Slugger. So he's the 5-tool guy. Yeah. This is gonna be fun to watch because Schloss, he gets everything out of his teams, and his players get better, and that's what we did not see from Texas baseball last year. The pitching did not get better. In fact, it got worse. You had guys who were markedly better the year before. Pierce changed their routines. It didn't work. He doesn't know how to teach well enough to get guys to throw a slider or a sinker. Like he wasn't a good enough teacher to add pitches to guys. He would just say, throw strikes.
Thanks, coach.
That's not going to help me.
I appreciate it. Like, help me. Help me.
Help me. Help you. Help me to help you. But yeah, that's going to be good. Tonight, Zay, I mentioned it in my little live read for Cover 3, but Texas women, man, this is a big game for the Texas women. It's not a make or break game, but it's a game that could tell us a lot. If they go into Kentucky, and Kentucky's playing really good basketball this year, if you're not used to hearing about Kentucky women's basketball, they're really good this year.
Yeah, you're gonna learn today.
And tonight, this is a game that Texas could easily be flat for. And let's be honest, this is a Texas team that has some holes, but they've done a great job of covering them up. They've gotten big time performances when they've needed it from players like, Taylor Jones and Kyla Oldacre, who just might be the best front court in women's college basketball this year, Zay. I know, you had Cardoso at South Carolina last year. She was unbelievable. It's the reason South Carolina won the national championship. But when you combine Taylor Jones and Kyla Oldacre, Texas might have the best, 5 spot in women's college basketball.
Oh, I agree. Like, one or the others in the game, and they're both a problem. Taylor Jones, her progression and just getting better each season, I've been very impressed with her because she's gotten tougher. She's a threat on the offensive glass, and both of them, Kyla Oldacre and Taylor Jones. They just do their work early where they get those easy buckets because they use their bodies so well. Like, that's tough to do when you're out there fighting and scrapping on the block to get good position. The players on the outside making those passes, they have to be money. They have to be right on time because you might only have position for 1 to 2 seconds. And Vic Schaefer's done a really good job of letting his guards know, hey, y'all have to look inside at all times. I know it's difficult to have someone guarding you and try to make those entry passes, but our girls are working down there and they're open. And Madison Booker, Rory Harmon, Jordan Lee, Shea Holly, they're hitting them when they're open and they're finishing. And when they don't finish, they get their own rebound and they give second chance opportunities for a Longhorns team that doesn't make many threes at all. Like, they're the worst shooting 3-point team in the nation, especially when it comes to attempts. And I hope that doesn't haunt them at the end of the day. Like, your defense has to be money if you want to keep that up and hoist that national championship trophy up that, first Sunday of April. But yeah, I like what Vic Schaefer's team's doing this year. And yeah, tonight it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a really tough one.
The player who makes Kentucky go is a COVID senior. Georgia Amoore. She averages 19 points per game. She played 4 seasons at Virginia Tech. She's from Canada. She's fun to watch. She averages 7.4 assists a game. This is going to be a great head-to-head between her and Rory Harmon because Georgia Amoore is 5'6". She just has great feel for the game.
She plays like how Becky Hammon used to play back in the day. That's how she plays. Just instant energy, does everything for her team, tough as nails. Not the best shooter from the outside, but if it's a needed bucket, she's going to be out to get it. So, yeah. And it's weird. Kentucky women, they don't play at Rupp Arena. They play in that weird other coliseum that they play in. I've always thought that was odd. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's their gym? Like, is it like, I don't know. It's like a convention center or something, but it's not Rupp. They won't be at Rupp tonight.
I'll have to look into that. That's wild. But we're going to have a good center battle in this matchup because Clara Strack is a 6'5" sophomore who averages 15.4 points, almost 10 boards. She is there, and she's a sophomore. She's number 13. Georgia Amoore is number 3, and Clara Strack. You won't miss her. Huh?
She's like 6'5".
Yeah, 6'5". Tough. Let's see. Like
Memorial Coliseum. That's where they'll be playing tonight.
Memorial Coliseum.
It's not like Rupp at all.
That's a bummer.
It's nice, but it ain't Rupp.
See, that tells you that even Kentucky doesn't think much of its women's program, and that's changing. I short sold them. They're number 8 in the country. So this is Texas. Texas has 3 top 10 matchups this week. South Carolina, Kentucky, LSU. That's a lot. Let's see if Texas's depth can get it done. Rory Harmon has not been shooting it well at all. Yeah. At all. That's the dirty little secret. That is part of the reason. She's never been a great 3-point shooter at all. She's a get to the basket,
mid-range,
and free throws. But like I said, Shayla Gonzalez left. Layla Filia from Michigan was supposed to fill that void and probably not shoot as many threes, although she shot well over 100 threes last year at Michigan. But she also attempted 100 and 60 free throws, whereas Shaylee only attempted 28 free throws last year. So, Felia is a physical player. I mean, she is put together. I mean, she's a model who will battle.
Yeah.
I was really looking forward to seeing her this year, and now we're not going to get to see her. So Vic finally said, yeah, we're down another starter, and he could almost say that about Aaliyah Moore, because I asked him, is she going to be back before the end of the regular season? He said, we just don't know. That's
like
not
that.
You love to have Amo and Jakalenga one and Tonda rotating with Justice Carlton. I mean, if there's a plus, you're getting Justice Carlton a lot more game action, maybe than you expected to get her this year. But yeah,
she's taken a step back in her minutes. Like before the season or before, conference play really got going, Justice Carlton was getting a lot of bump. And now it's been Jacqueline Winnentonda, who I think has tremendous upside. Like her playing the 4 position, the way that she plays D, her length. Now she's confident in her offensive game. Like she's been a really good addition with Aaliyah Moore's absence. So I expect her to continue to be solid, but also Justice Carlton, that's a top 10 freshman coming in. Like that girl could hoop. And yeah, she has that big ass brace on her knee. So who knows if she's dealing with any type of knee trouble, tendonitis or something like that. But the freshmen have been solid. Like Jordan Lee, I think Jordan Lee is going to be a star. Like she's absolutely fearless. The best 3-point shooter on the team, even though this team doesn't shoot very many, and she'll guard anyone. Like her stop on Tessa Johnson, South Carolina, when the Horns were up 2 in clutch time, that's a really good contest without drawing a foul. Just using your length, but also shying away from the contact so you can force up an awful shot from Tessa Johnson that went over the backboard. You get the ball back and you end up icing the game with the Rory Harmon free throws to make it 66-62 final score. So, Brianna Preston, she's fearless too. Like that girl, she got some Pat Bev in her. Like straight up, like she looks like she fights your ass if you got a little bucking crazy. She's not scared of nothing. Like she wants the action. If Rory Harmon gets into any type of foul trouble or a situation where she's playing bad, Brianna Press is gonna come in and play her ass off. She just doesn't have the experience, obviously, that Rory Harmon has, that you're gonna have to have once March comes around. But yeah, when it comes to being fearless, like Vic Schaefer's girls, that's what they are. And even though this is the toughest stretch of the season with Kentucky and LSU coming up right after you beat Don Staley's crew at South Carolina, they ain't scared. They ready for this moment. And they're rocking the pink, Chip. I don't know if you saw it on their social media page. They got the pink shoes out, like the all pink shoes and stuff delivered by Nike. So they might be wearing the pink alternate Texas jerseys that you see from time to time around women's college basketball, where a team just has like alternate pink jerseys for some reason, I guess to celebrate breast awareness. But yeah, we might see that. So that's a good change. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Well, the only other thing I was going to say is Kentucky has a 6'4" forward, Taoni Key, who averages 11.7 and 8.4 rebounds. I mean, this is the all-transfer team because you got Georgia Amore from Virginia Tech, and Clara Strack came with her from Virginia Tech. You've got Dazia Lawrence, who's averaging 13 points. She transferred from Charlotte. And Taoni Key transferred from North Carolina. And it's all working. So that's why Kentucky has come out of nowhere to be one of the best teams in women's college basketball. What were you going to say, Zay?
Well, and they just lost too, so they're a little pissed off from that. Yeah. But Our girls, 068. I always mispronounce her name. Somebody mentioned her on. Roy mentioned her.
Who?
Abby. What's her last name?
Yeah. Big Red.
Oh,
yeah,
Abby Big Red. Yo, Come on, man. Next year should be the year. When Kayla Holdager and Taylor Jones are gone, I'm expecting her to be next Brittany Griner. You know what I'm saying? 6'8". Come on. You can't teach height. Like,
Can't teach it.
No bump, though. Like, she don't come in for at least 2 minutes, Vic. Like, something. She can't still be hurt. Like, sure, she could block a couple of shots, turn around, jump hook, something.
And by the way, Kentucky women's coach Kenny Brooks was the coach at Virginia Tech before taking over at the end of last year. So he's in his first year at Kentucky. And tonight, we find out if Pete Kwiatkowski is the Broyles Award winner or not.
Oh, okay.
Broyles Award winner given to the top assistant in college football. It's like in Hot Springs, Arkansas or something that they do that. But I would give it to him. I think he actually earned it this year.
Yeah. Is Jim Knowles up for it? That'd be awkward.
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Did you? That'd be awkward. Jim Knowles, Ohio State defensive. Oh, wait. Penn State defensive coordinator. Like, how do you announce that? Clearly, it would be for what he did with Ohio State, but his petty ass said, I'm out of here.
All right, your finalists are Pete Kwiatkowski, Tennessee defensive coordinator Tim Banks, Notre Dame defensive coordinator Al Golden, who's gone, Indiana defensive coordinator Bryant Haynes, and Arizona State offensive coordinator Marcus Arroyo. A lot of people think it's between Pete Kwiatkowski and Al Golden and Marcus Arroyo. But what are you going to do?
All right. Yeah,
So,
good luck, Coach Kwiatkowski. You know what I'm saying?
Luck.
If you
In
take
fact, I'll
away the 75-yard screen pass against Ohio State, he was amazing. Like, just take that away. That's it. That's it. Like, that's the only play I remember. Like, ironically, which is sad. It shouldn't be like that. I remember all the goal line stops. Ethan Bird and them. You know, Bill Norton, Clemson. I remember all those big-time stops to change the game. Andrew Makuba interceptions. Jade Barron wins the Thorpe Award. Ant Hill takes another step. Mookie Taft was dominant. We know how good Barron Sorrell was with the pressures. Colin Simmons wins Sean Alexander Award. A lot of positivity. So, Pete Kwiatkowski, if you get it, well-deserved. Hope you get it. But, damn, man.
Damn.
You go into halftime feeling good. Real good. Like, we got these guys. We got them where we want them.
29 seconds left.
29 seconds.
Play a normal down of defense. You just talked me out of my chip shot.
Oh, come on, man. We still gotta do the chip shot.
No, I'm gonna do the chip shot. I'm gonna do it on I'm gonna touch on a couple things. Right. Couple little nuggets. Tashard Choice. It's a tough one. Steve Sarkisian has been on his A game, I think, in terms of the coaching hires he's made from the beginning. 4 years ago when he put the staff together. I thought one of the best things he did was fight to get Jeff Banks. Texas had to pay his buyout. Nick Saban was pissed, but Banks wanted to come. He wanted to get back into the state of Texas, closer to his kids. And I think Banks, anyone who's saying they should fire him, he had a bad year, and especially they don't know the extent of Jeff Banks. Like, that guy is the connector. Jeff Banks is the reason Pete Kwiatkowski is the defensive coordinator, because those two go way back in the Pacific Northwest. Remember, Jeff Banks was the punter at Washington State on the Ryan Leaf team that went to the Rose Bowl and played Michigan in '97. Banks is one of the best recruiters, one of the best special teams guys. I say you give him a pass for this year because he did lose a lot of veterans off of that team last year that was, excellent in special teams. A lot of veterans. And you had a lot of young guys like Warren Roberson and, Mo Blackwell was a veteran this year, but you did have some young guys. You lost Xavier Worthy, who is an amazing return guy. So anyway, my point is Sarkisian has done a really good job of hiring assistants. The Tashard Choice to the Detroit Lions is a little bit of a puzzler because the money typically is not as good. Now, maybe the Lions are, maybe the Ford family's opening up the checkbook because they feel like they're close. And you bring in a guy like Tashard Choice, who's a great locker room presence. He's a connector. He gets guys to buy in. That's a tough one. Like, people are like, oh, go hire Stan Drayton again. Stan Drayton's really good at what he does, but Tashard Choice is a dog. Like, Tashard Choice will get up in your face. I mean, he did. I remember CJ Baxter didn't get low enough on the goal line in one of his first games, and Tashard Choice is like, what are you doing? You are 6'1", 220. Play like it. Don't be tap dancing in there. Get behind your pads and bowl some people over. And he excellent coach. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. But you lose Blake Gideon, who's now the defensive coordinator at Georgia Tech, and you bring in Mark Orphey, and I love that. Young, hungry. He's got references. Jeff Choate had him as his secondary coach in Montana State. That Montana State team was an FCS semifinalist, and then FCS shut down during COVID, and Jeff Choate's like, screw this. I got to get out of here. I got to get somewhere where I can, get things going. And so he took the job at Texas, and now you wonder if Choate, I didn't ask him this, but you wonder if Choate's like, hey, I got a guy for you. If you're interested. But yeah, this is what happens when you're good. This is what happens. People come and raid your staff. They want guys who've been a part of it. This is what Nick Saban dealt with every year. Steve Sarkisian's fortunate because he's the offensive play caller, and Pete Kwiatkowski does not desire to be a head coach. He's very happy and very low ego. As a coach, that's rare. To be as accomplished as Pete Kwiatkowski and be low ego. Half of these coaches screw themselves over late in their careers because their egos are so big. I call it legacy prison. I should just call it ego prison. They think they're the reason. They think they're the reason. What are you doing for me? And once you get into that spot, you're in ego prison. Mac was in there. Bob Knight was in there. There's a lot of coaches who've had a ton of success who start to think it's all about them. And do you know what I've done for you? Do you understand this place wouldn't be where it is without me? Guess what? You move on, and they bring in the next guy.
Yep.
So you can't ever think like that. And that's why Pete Witkowski, I hope he wins the Broyles Award tonight, even though Zay got me all pissed off about the terrible defensive prevent defense call on that effing screen. God, that play pissed me off.
People don't forget.
Like, I don't get pissed off, like I'm normally just the, I'm going to tell you like it is, but that one pissed me off.
Oh,
because we've seen PK get a little conservative when he's got a lead, or when he's, in that case, tied. Trust your guys, man. You got thoroughbreds. You got dudes who love to get downhill. You got guys who can rush the passer. Trust them. Don't send Anthony Hill running 20 yards backwards, dropping him into coverage, for God's sake, and then getting him totally out of position to make the play because 3 offensive linemen are coming barreling down the field as bodyguards for freaking Travion Henderson. All right.
Yeah, you pissed off. Shit.
Right.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah, 2 calls. That's what I'm going to remember about that game.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that terrible prevent defense, and I'm going to remember the lack of brain cells on the 1st and goal situation.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just gonna keep it real with y'all. I'm saying that's the reason why Tashard Choice left this thing. That's the reason why he gone. Like, we could be all cute and stuff about he left for family.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. If they score, if they have an identity down there and they know how they're going to score, maybe Tashard Choice is like, let's run it back.
Let's run it back. Sark's like, no, I got this. Like, all right, coach, Mr. Offensive Guru, you know better than me. Toss it then.
Well, and Kyle Flood is the run game coordinator. Maybe Tashard Choice should have been the run game coordinator.
Maybe. Oh, Kyle Flood with them cowboy hats, man. You guys are too good, man. Now Ryan Day getting the big raise and stuff. Chip Kelly getting $6 million.
But everyone left. How weird is that?
That is weird.
Knowles like, yeah, I'm not feeling this at all.
Yeah.
And OU thought they were getting them, and then, I'm going to go up here and
State College.
Siberia. I mean, I get it. It's a big-time program. It's great fan base, but that is one of the hardest campuses to get to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a handful of them. I mean, hell, Morgantown's not an easy place to get to.
Sure ain't.
But
horrible places we're talking about here.
Right. Like quality of life.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Like I thought
people are crawling on glass to get to Austin.
Yeah. That's why you go get TJ Otzelberger if the job comes up. If the job comes up. Hey, TJ, what the hell you still doing here, bro? Especially if Ohio State gets bounced early. Let Ohio State get bounced round of 32.
Iowa State?
Iowa State, thank you. Let them get bounced round of 32. That's fine. That's fine. It's okay.
Why don't you come on down here? We'll get you what
you
need.
Down here, old TJ. They got weights down here, bro. You can pump iron. You can pump iron outside. Swole ass. Like, yeah. Go on.
I remember when they hired him, I was like, well, this will be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Iowa State, they're going to be a tough out. They can win it all. Don't sleep on them.
Super long.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Lipsy,
right.
Tough as hell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to the right call.
All right. Y'all know we got pettiness per usual for the right call today.
Oh, yeah.
For that, though, shout out 512 McCall Custom Homes. What up, Mike? Our dog Mike at McCall Custom Homes, his pops and the crew have been holding it down here in Central Texas for over 40 years, 50 years of combined experience for the father and son duo. It's all about quality. It's all about craftsmanship. Don't get one of these scrub jabroni guys that have to go to YouTube to figure something out. Like, no, you want professionals. You want guys that they're about this. It's all about business, and they want to make your house something truly special, whether it's dining room, kitchen, living room, doesn't matter. McCall Custom Homes are your people. If you want to see their terrific work, hey, many outlets to do that. Go on Instagram, go on Facebook, and type in at McCall Custom Homes and give our boy Mike a call at 512-633-9580. That's 512-633-9580, or shoot him an email at mike@mccallcustomhomes.com and hit up their brand spanking new website at McCallCustomHomesATX.com. It's McCall Custom Homes. We build value into your home. And Covert Bee Cave. Y'all know Wifey and I are Covert Bee Cave people. Check them out and, listen to the guys tell you about Covert Bee Cave and why they're the best.
It's really a family experience. I walked in the showroom today and everybody greeted me by name. How are you doing? What's going on? How's everything going?
From a price standpoint, from a customer service perspective, just conversation when you come in, it feels no pressure. I want to buy cars here.
The family buying car experience, one of the best that you will ever have.
Come and experience it for yourself.
Covert, born and raised in Austin.
That's right. Hit up covertbcave.com and see all the latest specials and inventory. Nobody beats a Covert deal. Not now, not ever. And Leaf Landscape Supply. If you're looking for large quantities of supplies to fulfill any landscaping job, trendy house plants, collection of specialty plants and rare plants, Leaf Landscape and Supply is your one-stop shop for everything you need. Full service wholesale and retail plant nursery and landscape supplier here in the ATX. Go visit both of their locations up north off of Palm Springs and down south off of 290 and Monterey Oaks. Check out their website at leaflandscapesupply.com to see everything that they have to offer. Remember, when you go in and you make a purchase, let them know you heard from your boys at Texas Sports Unfiltered. You get 10% off. 10% off at Leaf Landscape Supply. Can't beat that. All right, Shep. Rewind a little bit back to Super Bowl Sunday. Doesn't have anything to do with the game, but it does have something to do with the game because it's just a ridiculous story. So we all know Patrick Mahomes Sr., the father of the three-time Super Bowl champ, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and fellow Texan, Texas Tech Red Raider, Patrick.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Oh, you know where I'm going. This ignorant.
I can't wait to see whose side you're taking in this one.
Okay. For one, he's unhinged as hell.
Who?
Oh, and Patrick Mahomes Sr.
Okay, and what's John Rocker?
He's a nut too.
Yeah.
He's a nut too. John Rocker, former MLB pitcher. Apparently, these guys have history. I don't know if Rocker's dinged them a couple of times where P. Mahomes Sr. stepped in the box. I have no idea. But we got the video of these guys barking at each other on the French Quarter. Check it out.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Okay. So John Rocker is a mess. Now, I don't know. He's a racist. Like, go back and look at his history.
He's a racist?
I mean, he said he said he would never play for the Yankees because he doesn't like all the foreigners.
Oh, John.
And I think the perfect way to describe him is the redneck reliever. But you could tell he came up wanting to be like, hey, what's up? You know, because they remembered each other from their baseball days. Pat Mahomes Sr., former major leaguer, although now he looks so wiry that it's like hard to believe he was.
That's that crack pipe. That's that wiry. Like, yeah, when you do crack cocaine, you tend to
allegedly. Do you know something I don't?
Man, you see it. You see it. He got that Bobby Brown jaw and everything. You see it. That dude, he's done stuff.
Okay. Allegedly.
Well, okay, we'll say allegedly. But what's a fact is he's a drunk. That's a fact. That ain't no allegedly all the times he's been hit with those deep.
Hey, I didn't see no drink in his hand.
True.
Maybe he's reformed. Maybe he's changed.
Him getting into it with John Rocker ain't changing nothing. It ain't even about you.
I don't blame him. Rocker is a nightmare. Like, I don't blame him for that. Like, Rocker was a locker room cancer.
Yeah.
His own teammates didn't even like him. So I could see that coming from a mile away. And Rocker's like, hey, you know, look at your boy. And Pat Sr.'s like, I got nothing for you, man.
Wow. Well, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Jack's probably right. I mean, trying to pick a winner in this fight is like, you know, do you want poison ivy or herpes? You know, what do you want? You
want poison ivy and I could treat it.
Yeah.
Good grief. But
you get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. So your boy Dave Portnoy said, you know what? I'm gonna make some money out of this.
Oh, he's gonna
get these guys in the ring. He said it ain't gonna be no old Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson stuff. They clearly hate each other. They both signed the contracts. We gonna see a fight between Patrick Mahomes Sr. and John Rocker. That's gonna be so unhinged. But yo, Rocker's on the juice still. I don't know if he did steroids back then, but you saw him. He looked like he been in that weight room. I don't know if it's authentic or, you know, he's on the juice. We know what era he's from, so wouldn't be surprised if he was shooting up. But yeah, that's the petty I like. I like that. I'll take that because I'm not embarrassing myself out there, but when two other grown-ass men are embarrassing themselves for my entertainment, all about it. Give me all that. I'll take that.
Pat Mahomes Sr., according to In Touch, which is a tabloid, failed to show up for a drug test as ordered by the court 2 days after the Super Bowl. According to court documents obtained by In Touch, Pat Sr.'s community supervision officer filed a status report on Thursday, today, as part of his DWI case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. When he pisses in that cup and they find all that crack cocaine and stuff, that doesn't help nobody. So you don't show up.
Allegedly.
No, man. If you're skipping out on drug tests, you own something. You own something. Come on. Just embarrassing the family.
You got a lot of hate for Pat Mahomes Sr.
A lot of hate. He's embarrassing the family. I'm thinking about Britney Mahomes. You know my girl, Britney Mahomes. She a saint. She just can't do no wrong. Can't do no wrong. All she's trying to do is raise a loving family. She got 3 kids now and be there for her man. That's all she's been doing. And here comes Patrick Mahomes Sr.
I thought you were going to say you were looking out for Pat Mahomes.
He'll be fine. But Britney Mahomes, she's the one. She's the one. Pat'll be fine. He's all right. Old Tech Red Raider and stuff. It'll be fine. I'm thinking about Britney.
What is it about Britney that has you so
ride or die? She's a ride or die. She's a real one. She needs to write a book.
It's easy to be a ride or die when your husband's got a $400 million contract.
See, it'd be different if she came along
I
during
know. They knew
career.
each other in high school. She was diddling some other guy, and Pat was sitting there pining away, waiting for Britney to come. Oh, Britney, take me out of the friend zone. Take me out of the friend zone.
That's right. That's right. He had to earn that love, you know? Yeah, she was swimsuit, SI swimsuit model. You can't even tell she got 3 kids. You can't even tell.
When you got $400 million, you get every kind of weight loss trainer.
Oh, you're hating. Who's the hater now? You're hating.
You're making her out to be freaking, this amazing, achieving, superwoman. She's a rich NFL wife who has everything at her beck and call.
Look, we got a lot of gold digging out here in these streets.
I got you.
That are just completely taking advantage of these athletes. Anthony Edwards' situation is
he was there from the beginning.
She needs that recognition.
Before he even got to Texas Tech.
Exactly. Good woman. Britney Mahomes is a good woman.
He was just trying to get noticed by the hot babes at White House High School in East Texas.
And she's been there.
With his Mike Tyson voice and his scraggly hair.
Yeah. And she's been there. She's taking care of the kids, letting him win. If it wasn't for Britney Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes would be 0 rings.
Guess what?
0 rings.
He'd have nannies out the yin yang.
No.
Now, I don't know. His kids might be effed up being raised by nannies, but he'd still have those rings because he's got Andy Reid. He's had Travis Kelce in the prime of his career, at Tyreek Hill in the prime of his career. Now he's got Xavier Worthy zipping around, scoring 2 touchdowns in a Super Bowl, and then Worthy going off on people.
Yeah.
Going off on Steve Smith. Come on, X-Man, just be humble.
Steve Smith deserved that.
Be humble. Sit down.
Nah, Steve Smith, don't quote Kendrick Lamar. Steve Smith deserved that stray. Steve Smith, one of them on the podcast, Steve Smith said, oh, he's too small. He's all about his speed. He ain't really about it.
Hey, Steve Smith was watching the same damn film we were. Although Worthy was a little more tenacious in his final year at Texas than he was the first 2 years.
He was. Go back to that Oklahoma State Big 12 championship where he lowered his head on homeboy. That showed me everything. I was like, oh, this dude, he gonna be all right.
Sideline courage.
Yeah, he gonna be all right in the league.
Just 160 pounds of him.
Yeah. All right, we got 2 minutes before we bring on Patrick and Matt. Kanye and his crazy ass wife, she leaving his ass. She leaving him.
Yeah, because he's like putting up Nazi stuff every 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think the Nazi stuff was the last straw. even her crazy ass said, I can't take this. This is a little much. And that situation, talk about foul, because he had that girl butt ass naked at the Grammys, and they weren't even invited. Like, they crashed the Grammys, and she was up here butt naked. And yeah, she ain't
a picture of that.
Yeah, I could pull it up. I mean, BK pulled it up, him and Bucky, so we can't get in trouble for it. BK doing it, boss man.
Oh, she showed up like that. What's that? Rose, what's her name when she showed up with the crazy rocker? Her dress was nothing but strings. Who's that crazy ass rock? He had the weird. He's got 2 different color eyes and long hair. Oh my god! And Rose.
Who are you talking about?
Oh god, you will. Somebody help me on the text line.
The rocker. I have no idea.
Keep going with your
homegirl's picture. At the Grand.
Yeah, Manson, Marilyn Manson.
Oh, Marilyn Manson. Okay.
And his rose, not it's a great dress.
Oh, was it?
Oh yeah.
I don't remember that. What year was that? I couldn't have been.
Rose McGowan at the Grammys.
Oh, now I know what you're talking about. Yeah, there we go. There we go, Chip. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. 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 That girl flat out nuts, but hey.
I mean, there is nothing hot under that. And they just showed up and started walking the red carpet at the Grammys.
Uninvited. That's the best part. Like, they didn't get the invite. They crashed it. Everybody was like, I guess Kanye should be here. And then when he started wilding out like that, they were like, oh, no, Kanye. Wait a minute.
Bianca Sensori?
Sensori, yeah. She a free woman now. Good for her.
That was their last public appearance together?
That was the last public appearance. Then Kanye started doing the Nazi stuff. And, yeah. All right, man.
She's an Australian architect.
Yeah.
Model. All right, let's bring in the fellas. Let's bring in Patrick and Matt. What's up, fellas?
How you guys doing?
Yo, Matt's face when we pulled up the picture, man, priceless.
That's one way to enter the studio. I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'd only seen the from behind when she walked in with the big fur coat, and then they're like, "Let us see your outfit," and she just sitting there talking to Kanye like, "Hey, this seems like a really bad idea now. I'm reconsidering this idea that we had for you to get famous off of my back because you just are crazy." So, and then he's like, "No, take off your coat. That's why you're here. You are here to make me more famous." Because, all right, I mean, in his brain, he's making everybody famous because Kanye's crazy. But
as if he could get any more famous anyway.
Hey, Zay, you got to throw it. You know the John Rocker Mahomes thing was all staged, right? That was all fake. You don't get to fight it. What, 12 hours later, Poitner's got it signed? It's totally, there's a camera out. It's already leaked. 20 seconds later, it was totally fake to promote a fight.
Okay.
All made up. Come on.
I'm going to watch. They got me. They sold me. I got to see what's going on.
Have you ever watched one of the Rough and Rowdies before?
I have. It's nuts.
They're interesting. They're interesting. I'll say that.
So I just can't imagine how Patrick feels.
Do we know
Patrick, dude? I don't know yet. I haven't seen when the actual date is. I'm sure it's announced. So if he's already got it signed, I'm sure they've got one of them. And it'll just be a weird. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes, if he's not used to this by now, he just, when they go, Patrick, we need to talk. He goes, which one? Which one of my crazy relatives has besmirched the Mahomes name again? And they go, oh, your wife's on the Sports Illustrated. He goes, that is the least of my worries. Go. Is she with another man? And they're like, not yet. And you're like, okay,
not yet.
I love it.
Matt, Patrick, I'll have a good show, fellas.
Hey.
Thank you, guys.
Hey,
thanks,
we'll
guys.
see you tomorrow at 2, and I'll be in Arlington for the Longhorns season opener. So we'll see you tomorrow at 2. Have a great show, fellas.
Thanks, Chip.
There you go. Let's get into Open Gym here on Texas Sports Unfiltered. Good to be back with you. Myself, Patrick Davis, and with me has been for the last few days. We've been doing it. My man, Matt Galatz there, publisher over at SI.com. On the show today, we're going to get into, of course, the Tashard Choice news. That was the big news that broke and kind of more dwarfed the other news we got in Mark Orphey being hired as the new secondary coach for Texas. We'll get into that a little bit. All the Longhorns getting over to the invited to the combine. 14 Longhorns invited to the combine. We'll go through that. Talk about that a little bit. Aaron Rodgers is, of course, in the news again. So you have to talk about Aaron Rodgers when he gets in the news. It is a requirement when you get into sports media. You sign a thing and somebody shows up at your door and says, like, once a week, Aaron Rodgers is going to be in the news for some reason. You have to talk about it. So we're going to get that out of the way. A little bit of Micah Parsons has been making the rounds now and on X and talking to other people, telling people that Micah Parsons has plans that he wants the Cowboys to go after, and probably got bad news for Micah. And then, of course, the big Texas women's basketball game tonight that'll be on right after us. We're on till 6 o'clock, and then you'll be able to watch that Texas women's basketball game. The text line's open, 512-222-9328. We'd love to get your opinions. If you got something you want to ask us, a question, a topic you want to go into, that is what Open Gym is about, bringing you guys in, bringing in different contributors to talk about Texas sports and everything around it here on the show. Also, we're open in the chat. Got that chat window open too on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch and X, wherever you're listening to us. We appreciate it here on Texas Sports Unfiltered. Matt, the rain seems to be subsiding a little bit. The sun came out. It is still very cold, but it's been a busier day for Texas sports. How's your day going?
Pretty good. It stopped raining here in Houston too, and as a result, there are some workers next door fixing the fence. So if anybody hears any loud bangs or nail guns, that's what it is. I'm not getting shot at, I promise.
Yeah, I know. My dog is actually in the room. My dog Lou is in the room today. So if he makes any noise today, we'll just see me glancing back at him.
That's okay. Mine made some noise on the first show. I'm sure that won't be the last time either.
Yeah, he's pretty good, but sometimes he decides he is the one that at the radio station would literally come into the radio station with me and sit underneath the board and just sleep for the entire show. So he's been pretty good. He's trained to be pretty good at listening to his dad drone on about sports for a long time. Let's get into it right away, though. We will get into the biggest news of the day today for the Longhorns. Tashard Choice is leaving the Texas Longhorns, taking a job with the Detroit Lions. Tashard Choice has came into this Texas team after Stan Drayton left, and it was one of those pieces that you brought him in 2022. He didn't have a ton of experience, had done well. He had been Jahmyr Gibbs' coach before he went to Alabama and had that fame, and then goes on to get drafted to the NFL. But we see that he decides to go to Texas. We understood he was not going to be here forever. I think, there's always a hope in Texas, and there's a love of, because we all love Texas football so much, and we love Austin and all these pieces, that there's always kind of this prevailing thought that, well, if the money's right, why would you ever leave? And for some guys, you want to go upward. Like Blake Gideon, I don't think Blake Gideon wanted to leave Texas. I think he wanted a better job. And for Tashard Choice, I think it's somewhat of a similar. I know Zay has his theory for it, which I don't fully agree with, but I know there's different theories of why he might have wanted to leave Texas. We can get into the fact that a lot of Cowboys fans feel that this is a slight to them as well. We can get to that as well, but this is also a point that I get. You say, the excuse of I want my family to be, I want to be around, my kids a little bit more, and having to be on the road so much, recruiting, all of that. I understand that concept, because he not only was he doing it, he was killing it. Such a great recruiting force for Texas, and especially out of state. He was great out of state, which leads to the problem. That means more time on a plane. That means more time away from your family. And that means more just work where you're not actually doing the fun part of work. Travel is usually not the fun part when you're hopping on a plane to go to a high school to talk to a family and some kids. That's probably not the most fun, is the travel. And when that becomes, out of a week, 20 hours a week sitting on a plane, or 20 hours a week in transit, 20 plus, and you just keep going, okay, now it's 30. And now it's getting more, and over the off season, it just never kind of slows down. I can understand wanting to go into that. I can understand wanting to go back into a situation in Detroit with a really good young running back. If Montgomery will still be there, I don't know if he will or not, but if Montgomery is still there, then one of the best running back duos in football, you can walk into that situation. And then you also get to throw in the fact that you're with a coach now who you feel like this is a place where I could advance more than I could at Texas, where at Texas, Kyle Flood kind of seems like he's going to be here. Pete Kwiatkowski seems like he's going to be here. I don't know if either of those guys are taking head coaching jobs or pushing out for him. So there seems like there's somewhat more of a ceiling for some of these position coaches at Texas, whereas at Detroit, you're going in with a new offensive coordinator, which we don't know how that's going to work out. You're going in to a team where the odds of you moving up the ladder a little bit more, or being able to go and take steps forward, seems a little bit more. And under a coach like Dan Campbell, who is a former player, who is a hard-nosed guy, who is somebody that I feel Tashard Choice can get along with very well in philosophy. This is a place where I think he could thrive and move up a little bit more than he probably would have at Texas. So I see all the positives to it. It sucks for Texas. It's going to be a very hard job to replace. But for Tashard Choice, I get it. It just leaves Texas. You replace one guy and immediately there's another. You don't get more than 5 minutes, it feels like, before you're back on the phone trying to put together a list of candidates and hire again. What was your reaction when you first saw this come down, and how did it develop in your brain of where Texas is at with Tashard Choice in the running back room and then, his future as well?
Well, there's obviously a lot there. So first of all, you got to be happy for Choice because he's earned it. He's one of the hardest working guys on the staff, arguably the best recruiter on the staff.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit yesterday. When you're a championship level team, it's kind of a natural, it's a natural thing that they're going to come get your big assistants.
Yeah.
It's with coordinators, it's a little bit different. But you want to be in a position where these guys are affecting your program so much that they are desired. And it's just kind of a natural thing that this is going to happen. Some rival fan bases might try and spin it as, oh no, Texas is doomed or something like that, but they'll figure it out. They'll recover. I've got a couple of names on my mind that, could be some good fits there, but I see why Choice would want to do something like this. For one, going to the NFL is always a dream for everybody. He's been up for positions constantly. The Raiders and the Cowboys made overtures at him. And going to Detroit makes a lot of sense in particular because he was the guy that found Jahmyr Gibbs for Georgia Tech. And he knows that guy so well. He's a budding superstar. If he's not a superstar already, he's one of the best, probably top 3 running back in the NFL right now. And that is got to be very tempting for him to go work with a guy that he has a good relationship with and he knows and he can help, develop that team that is on the verge of a Super Bowl. I was shocked when Washington beat them. I had Detroit as my pick for the Super Bowl all season. So next year, who knows? They'll probably be even better than that. And look, Texas will recover from this. I'm not concerned about who they're going to find or if they're going to find a guy that can, have the same kind of effect on the program. Obviously, Choice is one of the best assistants in the country, arguably the best assistant in the country. But, this is Texas. They'll find someone. It hampers you short term. Rivals.com's #1 running back, Xavier Worthy, canceled his official visit because of this. I don't think the timing is necessarily a coincidence on that. But other guys like Javian Osborne are they're still going to stick around. They're still going to see what Texas has to offer, who they bring in. So it's not the end of the world. They just need to find the right guy. And you want me to go ahead and bring up my 2 names that I have in mind?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, and I'll just bring up real quick. There still are, James Simon is another guy that came in this year as a 4-star recruit. There are some guys that came in. You still have CJ Baxter. You still have some good running backs on this team. So you're gonna. It's not like you're gonna. It may hurt you a little bit, but the transfer portal will be there. There will be guys if you miss out on somebody because of this news for the 3 weeks it takes to hire somebody and get the new person, or what was it? How long it take between Blake Gideon and Orphey? A week? So yeah, you'll probably have somebody within a week or so. In that you go if somebody does cancel and they decide I don't like that, or Tashard was the reason I was coming. And it won't just be running backs. There's other players that he's been heavy in recruiting in. Then, it's a shame and it will hurt you a little bit. Luckily for Texas, they have prepared themselves because they know. I mean, this is part of it of, look, we just see Ohio State every year now is having to replace everybody. And Michigan, they win their national title. They replace everybody. Washington made it to the finals, and then all their coaches were gone. It is just pretty standard if you make the playoffs. And Texas has not had it as bad because Sark has put younger guys that he's at least getting 3 or 4 years out of a guy before they leave. He's actually doing a pretty good job bringing in. That's, again, why you assume somebody, we talked about yesterday with the quarterback coaches, I would assume who he's going to hire will be between the ages of 35 and 40 years old.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
that's not a prerequisite. I would just assume because of how he's been hiring at those position coaches, let me bring in somebody that can grow in this position as opposed to coming in and they're coming in at the lowest level they ever want to be at. And they want a promotion immediately and they want more responsibility. And that I think there's something to be said about how he's brought guys in. I think he'll bring somebody in within a week or so and you'll be back off and running. I know our man Charles Amenahue used to be intern at the Horn back when I was over there. He has been on X today defending Sark and trying to calm the Longhorn people that I'm sure he got all the calls of what are we going to do? He's like, man, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Don't freak out about it. Seen a lot of stuff with people talking about, I get, it's bad but if you're coming for one coach, you were probably going to not be here that long anyway. You got to come for all the pieces of it. So there's a lot to it. It's going to be bad, but I am curious who you have coming up on your list. Who are some names that you've been hearing and that have make sense for this Texas job?
Well, the names that make sense to me sort of fit your criteria of on the younger side, well, at least for one of them on the younger side. And it's been a name that he's one of the most popular assistants in the country. Everybody's heard of him. I'm pretty sure he's been at Texas at some point. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I came up with this list off the top of my head right before we hopped on. So I have to look at his resume a little bit, but Rashad Samples, phenomenal recruiter, great running backs coach. He's had NFL interest. He's 30 years old. He is across the state of Texas. Has incredible connections, high school coaches. He's been in SMU. He's been all over the place. So he's one. And then the other guy
too, I'll throw in this. This is the one that you always get. He's also the son of Duncanville's head coach.
Yeah,
so
which is
he
huge.
is someone with huge ties. He has gotten jobs because of that, and he has continued to move up because of other pieces of what he does. But recruiting wise, that pipeline that he opens up, he has been in talks. I don't think he was ever at Tech, or I think he may have done some things with Texas. Oh yeah, he was an assistant wide receivers coach in 2018 for Texas, and it was one of those pieces of he's moved up. And right now he's an associate head coach and running backs coach at Oregon,
which is going to be hard to pull him from. But
yes, and so but he's and it's does he want to come back to Texas, or is it, man, right now that money train at Oregon's rolling, and why would you leave a place where you make one phone call and you get whoever you want? So maybe that may be too good to take away. But yeah, I remember Rashad Samples. His name has come up a lot. I believe his name was coming up when they brought in Tashard Choice as well, that he was somebody that was at least looking at because of that Duncanville connection.
Yeah, and just the Dallas connections in general as well.
Yeah.
He would be a phenomenal choice. And then the other guy that I had is Carlos Lachlan at Ohio State. He came from Oregon to Ohio State, and then Rashad Samples took his old job at Oregon. And then, I mean, you saw what he did with Ohio State, Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, my old Ole Miss guy who bailed on Oxford to go to Ohio State and win a national championship. And he's again a phenomenal recruiter. He's 47, so he's a little bit older, but phenomenal recruiter, great running backs coach, gets guys to the NFL. I think both of those guys kind of fit the mold of what they're looking for. So we'll see which direction they take. I don't think it's going to take very long. I think that they want to ease the minds of some of these recruits who are losing choice and bring in a guy and develop a relationship with the new, guy in charge. And I think that they'll do that fairly quickly. This feels more pressing than the safeties coach to me.
Oh yeah. No, this, and especially too, I think, you talk monetarily. Tashard Choice is making good money here. And so that opens up a little bit more in your budget, whereas Blake Gideon, I think he was doing fine. But when you talk about, okay, we're hiring somebody, and if you look at some of the higher names, you were going to have to find some more money in the budget to bring in somebody from Notre Dame than you were for what you were paying Blake Gideon probably. But what you're paying Tashard Choice is I would assume one of the highest paid running back coaches in college football.
Yeah,
so,
I think he made $850,000 last year.
Yeah,
so he's one of the highest paid assistants in the nation total.
Yeah, and so we say he's at that level. The budget's there. Everybody knows the budget's there. So when you start to have those conversations, I think you can get through that piece of it pretty easily. And I mean, and I'll just say, I know I heard what Day was saying earlier about him maybe having issues with the way Sark called plays at the goal line and not trusting the running backs. I mean, look, and I'll just be this way. If you have an assistant coach who gets pissed at you because you don't use his players over your other players and you're the head coach, that's fine. You're gone. I love Tashard Choice. I don't think that's the case, but I think Tashard Choice knows that as well. If you're the head coach and an assistant wants to mutiny you because you're not running the ball now, and if we go in that route, by the way, he didn't fix the fumbling problem, and that was a problem all damn season. And so if we want to go back and forth on whose fault it was, I think it was the team's fault in whole and every piece of it. Sark's going to take it on the chin because he's the head coach. Quinn will take it because he's the star quarterback. But yeah, I don't see as much as a controversy. I think it was, and we'll get into why he didn't go to the Cowboys or the Raiders. Neither one of them have a running back. If I'm going into a running back room and I don't know who my head coach is, I don't really know who my OC is, I don't really know what the culture of these teams are right now, I don't know who my running back is, I don't know if you're going to go out and get me one. Do I have to draft it? So I got to scout a running back now and hope you get your guy, and you're telling me before the draft. So if you tell me that I'm the Cowboys and you're drafting Ashton Janty, and then he goes before you, now I'm stuck here. I took the job because I'm coaching a running back I wanted to coach. And now I'm with Rico Dottle if they re-sign him, or if they don't, just nobody. Or whoever you get in the second, third round. We know that all the rumors were they wanted Jonathan Brooks last year. And Terry Jones kept talking all that love of Jonathan Brooks. And then at the end of the day, he went before them. They didn't trade up for him. They made it well known. If you let him fall to us, he's gone. And so the teams looked at it and said, this is where Jonathan Brooks gets taken off the board. If you want him, if you have a better grade than that, go get him. Don't expect him to fall. And the Cowboys didn't get him. I think if you're Tashard Choice, you look at that and go, even if, the money is different, and I don't know, we haven't seen what his Detroit contract is. And if Detroit really leveled out the money and paid him more or paid him roughly the same, if there's going to be differences living in Detroit, and maybe it's a little bit cheaper to live there than it is in Austin right now, and you can get a place. I mean, there's a lot of factors. Now you have to pay state income tax up there, so that changes what you're going to have to pay. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But I think all of that, I will say, I bet he would enjoy playing for Dan Campbell, even though they throw the ball, and Ben Johnson threw the ball a ton. They did like to run. You did have a much more run-heavy attack with two really good running backs for most of the season. I get why the appeal to go to a team with that running back court, and I get if you're Detroit, fully understand why you would pay somebody a little bit more when you have a running back that contract negotiations are probably going to start within a year. And let's bring in his friend. Let's bring in somebody that he really trusts to be a part of this staff, so that when he's on the last full year of his contract, and I believe there's a club option year, and then so like they'll have control for him for a little bit longer. But at the same part, you're probably going to try and work something out if he continues to be a star player this season. You're not going to Jerry Jones it. You will try and figure something out before the last possible second. But I think you bring in you maybe makes that decision a little bit easier for him if Tashard Choice is there and he's working in practice with somebody that he really respects and enjoys being around. I think all of those things can make more sense.
Yeah, absolutely. The situation in Detroit is one of the best in the NFL. So you're not going to have any questions about, if they're going to go all in and get you something that you want, or if you got the guys already that can get you to the Super Bowl and get you over the top. It feels like they brought in Choice. I totally agree with your assessment on the Jahmyr Gibbs thing. I think that's a great point. I hadn't even really thought about him being up for a contract, so that's probably going to help there. And then when you look at like the situations in Dallas and I still have a hard time calling him Las Vegas.
I know.
and with the Raiders, neither of those teams are close. Neither of those teams are particularly well run. Yes, the Raiders brought in some new blood and Tom Brady and all that kind of stuff, and Pete Carroll. But with Dallas specifically, their only decent running back, Rico Dowdle, is probably going to be a free agent. And by that I mean they're probably not going to pay him because they don't like paying their running backs.
I can't imagine he's going to get a huge offer.
No,
I feel
but
like I know unless they send him just in a super insulting one, like they call him up and go, "Hey, we'll give you, I don't know, 2 years, $6 million." Then he goes, "Well, I'm getting, 4 years, $12 million over here. Why would I take your offer? Why on earth would I? Or $4 million is 15 over here. I'd take that over." So unless they really do that, I feel like they don't have a ton of options. They do tend to try and keep their guys a lot. They do have the "we like our guys," so this could fall into it. I know Tony Pollard I get why they didn't. They understood he was going to cost too much. I don't know if Dottle fits in that camp. I think he may be affordable that you can bring him back. And I just don't know. I haven't seen what the running back. It's going to depend on what the draft does as well. If there's guys, because Rico Dottle is a complimentary back in the NFL. He's not he's not going to be a lead back for or at least not a competitive team. So unless, maybe the Giants put him in with the rookie, or, maybe one of these teams that is going to draft somebody puts him in with them to ease that transition. I just can't imagine you're going to pay him long-term or a lot of money. So they should be able to keep him. Feels like a reasonable choice. The problem is they might keep him and make him their lead back. That is a more likely situation.
Yeah, and for me, I feel like they're going to put all of their chips on Micah Parsons, and they're going to pay him, and they're probably going to pay somebody else, and Dowdle could end up being a
casualty
of that. Yes, and so that's where that is. But also the thing about the Cowboys is it's not a very particularly well-run organization, as we all know. Jerry and Steven are going to put their noses in everything, and they're not going to let you run things the way you want them to be run. So that's probably something also that Choice was like, okay, I don't think I want to leave Texas to deal with that. And the Raiders are always a disaster. So I get it. Like, go to a franchise that used to be a disaster and has proven that they can take things to the next level, and they're on the right track, and they're going to be a Super Bowl favorite. So it's a no-brainer for me for Detroit over. Even like the Cowboys were going to offer him the running back coach position. The Raiders were going to offer him the running back coach position. He's just no title assistant right now. We don't know what the title is, but it's not running backs coach in Detroit. And that should tell you everything you need to know right there.
Yeah. No, it does put in that position for Tashard Choice of, so you just want me to do kind of a similar thing. Don't put my hand in the cookie jar. I don't get to buy any of the groceries. I don't get to talk about any of it. I may not even be in the room in these discussions. And Detroit, it feels like, wants to bring him in to be a little bit more part of it, because part of it is the existing relationship with the running back who is already there. And that it makes more sense. I don't think he was going to look. He's one of those guys, like I said, with Johnny Nansen. I'm surprised he's still here. I kind of thought it was going to be a one and done for him. Tashard Choice every offseason felt like he was going to go, because he's just so heavily coveted by so many teams. So many people look at what he can do recruiting wise and what he done as a coach, and the players that he's been a part of producing and developing. I think he was highly touted and highly coveted by a lot of people, that you knew at some point someone was going to come along and give him that offer. And it just happened to be that Detroit found the one that makes sense. And that is where they bring him in. It's a big loss for the Longhorns to lose a coach of that caliber, a person of that caliber, and a recruiter of that caliber. But it's Texas. And I think Sark has done an amazing job hiring. That's one of those things that, in the grand scheme of things, he may not get all the credit he deserves for, but he has brought in some people that are not necessarily the biggest names, but seem to work out more than they don't, for guys that are not the easy choice that someone sitting just at home looking at their computer screen may say, no, that guy is the best. He's done pretty good bringing in guys and finding guys that fit into what he's trying to create. That being said, we can talk about Mark Orphey getting hired in the secondary. We talked yesterday about all the names that were on there. Orphey was definitely one we talked about. And the reality of, again, you brought in probably the youngest guy out of the group of potential guys you were looking at, and also the guys with the ties in Texas to Houston So someone that has been highly praised since the hiring. A lot of people think very highly of him as a coach. A lot of people think highly of him as a recruiter, and his ties to Houston will help you continue with. This is one of those, parts that we talk about. We talked about it a lot when A&M went to the SEC. We talked a lot about how the SEC was trying to get more of a stranglehold in Texas. Why was the the SEC media days in Dallas? Why are they doing things in Dallas? And they go, man, why does SEC do everything in Atlanta? And you go, because Atlanta is the best recruiting grounds in the country. And it's right in SEC country, and they want to put things there. They realize Dallas is number 2, and they want to put things in Dallas. They want to have a tie into Houston as well. And so if you're Texas, and this is supposed to be your area, this is supposed to be where you get the most guys out of, and that has not been the case for the last, 15 years since Mac Brown kind of lost it there at the end. Texas has not had carte blanche in there. It used to be either the Aggies or the Longhorns had the best group that would come out of Texas every year, and that started to go away. Then Oklahoma started to win it, and you started to worry about that. Other Big 12 teams are coming in. You go, what the heck? And when all the Big 12 teams started to come in and poach all these players from Texas, the SEC said, well, if Iowa State can get a guy from Dallas, we can get 20. We're Alabama, we're Ole Miss, we're Georgia. We can get those guys. So they've been trying to come in. So I think trying to bring in some coaches like that, like a Mark Orphey, who has more ties into Houston, that is going to get you more front door access than maybe a Georgia or an Alabama or an Ole Miss or any of those guys coming in, that maybe you get spoken about better, that the coach is giving you more an inside edge. Scouting wise, you're getting more real talk from guys to let you know what the culture of these players is before you get them into your system. So you're not getting so many guys that are going to be a transfer out after 1 year or half a season because it just doesn't fit. That's a big part of scouting and recruiting that's really hard is, you have to go talk to high school coaches who want all their players to go to big schools. And sometimes you got to go find an assistant or someone go, hey, this dude doesn't do schoolwork. He just doesn't. Just to let you know before you go bring him into your program, he does not take this stuff seriously. Now, he'll work his butt off over here, but he does not care about these things. Or this is a guy, and he likes to go out. And he's every Saturday night, we know he's out in the town. We're trying to get him to slow down, but he does that. I mean, look, Johnny Manziel, as much as people want to say the whole story is that Texas did not want to bring in Johnny Manziel because he wanted to, they were going to have him be a safety and he wanted to be a quarterback. And that was the main reason that they didn't bring him in. I've also heard plenty of people tell me that they knew about his problems and they thought if he came to 6th Street, he might die on the streets. And Mac said, I can't control this guy. And I know he has talent, but I think I can get somebody else. And he's probably not worth the headache that he's going to bring. Now, when you talk about in College Station, you can hide that stuff a lot better. And there's not as much to do. But in Austin, it's there. Everything is there all the time. You don't have to work hard for it. You go down to 6th Street and whatever your vice is, you can probably find it within 10 minutes. So I think there's parts of it where recruiting and scouting, you have to know those things. Having that connection in Houston for Orphey helps you out a lot in a world where, like never before, teams are going well out of their jurisdiction to go recruit and bring in top talent. To get another big hitter in a major city in your home state is going to be great. And then just what he can do coaching, I think will be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, I don't know this for a fact. I haven't really dug into it very much. But I think a lot of this hire has to do with Texas A&M in a sense, because Texas A&M has kind of had Houston as their main pipeline in Texas as their fertile recruiting ground. It's well documented. Just a couple of years ago in that class they had that was quote unquote the best of all time, and now like 4 guys are left. But Connor Wegman, Reuben Owens, Bobby Taylor, and more all were from the Houston area, and those were big parts of that recruiting class. So that's number one. You want to get your foothold in Houston, and going back to the stuff about the partying and all that those kinds of things, it's incredibly important that you do find an assistant who can find those things out, because those are not the kinds of players that Sark wants in his program. That's not the culture they've developed. That's kind of the thing that got Tom Herman in trouble, I think, is because a lot of those guys were not necessarily responsible, we should say. So I think that's huge in this whole equation, is that Mark Orphey he has the connections to find those things.
Yeah,
he has the connections to get a foothold in Houston, and he's a hell of a football coach too. He's up and coming. I think he's a rising star in the industry. I didn't necessarily anticipate that he would get a job like this quickly, but I mean, that speaks for him.
Yeah.
And maybe it does go back a little bit to the Tashard Choice thing, where you were paying him so much money, and then, you wanted to find a guy that you didn't necessarily have to pay as much. Like, a Mike Mickens was going to cost you a lot more money. So maybe that has something to do with it. And maybe this kind of sets them up. Also, it's like, not only do you get a good recruiter and a guy that can give you a foothold in Houston and all those things, and he's a heck of a football coach, but you don't have to pay him as much, and now you can go find Tashard Choice's replacement, like with Rashad Samples or Carlos Lachlan or whoever else they decide to bring in, and you have a little bit more money to spend there. So
yeah, you just don't have to worry about it with your budget. I talked about yesterday. The fact that game just moved yesterday, they announced the movement of that, could have been a thing that had to go into the 2024 year or 2025 year instead of the 2024 year. We know that all the numbers came out about how much money they spent, and then they made it all back. But that tells you you're walking a fine line, and in any place, especially now, Jay Hartzell moving on. There's, you have to deal with some different bosses that'll be coming in, and CDC trying to manage everything. And now, I mean, they're passing bills to tell you the Title IX for NIL, and those worlds are going to be different. So it's a tight line you're always trying to walk when you're talking about something that's called, this program is so huge. But you get in a guy that you feel really good about. I will tell this story too. We talk about it just a little bit. I'll just mention this. Also, shout out Burnsy. Thanks for joining us here on the show. If y'all want to join the chat, you can jump in there too. But I'll say hi back to you. But I remember, I know some people that I was friends with that were actually on Texas when Mac Brown came in. And when Mac Brown came in, Texas football ran 6th Street. You go down and get whatever you wanted. And basically when he came in, he was like, no, it's done. We have to clean this up. We need to be a presentable, and it wasn't a national championship team at the time, but we need to be a national team. We need to be a team that they feel good about putting on TV. Back before every game was on TV, you've had to be a team that you could present as this national team, and that way we can build it up. And then the story basically goes, he did that for a few years. Oklahoma gets Bob Stoops. They start winning, and they go to Mac and go, we need to win more. And he goes, well, do you want to be clean or do you want to win? Because there's going to be some concessions that go into that, and we know throughout the years, we've all, people know, you hear stories about certain guys, and, there will be arrests and there will be things that happen, and they've got a really good staff that some of the things you'll never hear about. And God bless the staff at Texas for being able to handle business in a proper way, and the professionalism of Austin Police Department at times to not let things get out of hand. But all that being said, those are not bad kids. They're just kids being kids at a point. And you just have to know that line between, is this kids being kids? Do we know how talented this kid is versus the trouble he's going to bring? Those are all pieces you have to have. Having guys with inside sources, people who know that, helps out a lot. And then it's also great for guys who have known a coach like Mike Orphey and have known him since he was there, and the coaches and that, see him come in on a helicopter with the SEC logo and the Longhorn logo on the side, and see him rolling in a new suit that's tailored to him with a nice watch and all the nice things to say, hey man, homeboy, or the guy, I don't say homeboy, but the guy, the hometown boy, did well. That is, all of those pieces. Yeah, I wasn't saying Ramon Taylor, but we all know Ramon Taylor.
He was so fun to watch though, man.
And that's what I say. When I say talent versus what you have to deal with, some of those stories, though, I've heard about him are kind of out there. But all that being said, you have to, you're gonna go through that. You have to kind of get a judge on some of those things. And I think there's just a lot of positives to bring somebody that's part of it. I think Mike Mickens would have been a great hire. He would have been an awesome thing, been a great recruiter. And again, you need recruiters like Tashard Choice who can recruit you out of state as well. And Tashard Choice is really, really good out of state as well, not just in state, being a guy who used to play for the Cowboys, and a lot of people watched him play for them and could help you in that area. He can help you recruit everywhere. And but I think when you looked at it and you look at what they're kind of trying to piece together, you want to give Terry Joseph a chance to grow a little bit more in his role as well. And I think if you take a Mike Mickens, that also maybe squanders Terry Joseph. You probably lose him in a year. If you say we're going to put somebody ahead of you again, instead of putting someone at least at most beside you, and let you kind of grow still. We don't want to just kind of keep capping people and putting guys over the top of you, because once you start doing that, now that door starts rotating even faster and faster. And we say that with Ohio State, they're right now hiring known names. I think that's kind of why you see the Brian Hartline hire at offensive coordinator, at least, is, man, maybe this guy will be here for 2 seasons. Maybe we'll get a little consistency. And I know we're rotating quarterbacks now almost every year, and I know we're rotating all these players so much more, but can we get a little consistency in our coordinators and who are play callers? I think that piece, when you bring in some guys like Orphey, I think that's a hire that gives you more ability to have a little bit more stability and keep your culture. Even when you do lose pieces, you're not losing chunks. You're losing pieces, not chunks. And that's what Sark has done really well in building. This feels like another piece that'll fit in there and be able to stay for a few years. And then when he moves on, we'll all wish him well, and hopefully we'll be doing it with the title.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's go over and talk a little bit as well. You know what? Actually, we'll take a quick break real quick, because I don't want to forget to play our wonderful sponsors that keep us going here on Texas Sports Unfiltered. So let me see if I can queue up one of these real quick, and we'll play a quick little sponsor break for you, and then we'll come back. We'll get into the scouting combine, the announcements of who is going to be invited to that. We'll mention any names that were not on that list that we thought maybe could have been on it, who may surprise us that is on the list, and what it means for Texas to have the number that it did. We'll get into that a little bit later. Aaron Rodgers, Micah Parsons, both in the news, and Texas women's basketball playing a big game tonight at 6 o'clock. We'll get into all of that. And of course, if you want to join the conversation, we're open in the chat on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X. You can join the chat there or on our text line 512-222-9328 here on Tech Sports Unfiltered. It's Open Gym, Patrick Davis and Matt Galatson.
The best sports bar in Austin, Texas, USA, America is Cover 3. They've got everything you're looking for in a great sports bar. TVs everywhere, so there's not a bad seat in the house, and they've got the right games on. You're not going to have to ask the bartenders, the waitresses, the waiters for the game that you want to watch. They know the games that you want to watch, and the food. My goodness, that's what separates Cover 3 from the other sports bars out there. An upscale menu with tons of great items. You got to try the Sean Adams prime rib sandwich. They've got the filet mignon. They've got the fish tacos. Of course, all of the sports bar classics like wings and nachos as well. Great burgers, great salads. I'm telling you, something for everyone. Of course, the full bar happy hour prices, the weekend brunch. You got to check them out. Anderson Lane, Round Rock, and San Antonio. And, of course, Cover 2, 183 and Lake Creek. It's Cover 3, dining, spirits, sports.
Hi, I'm Dan Covert with my wife Hayden. Welcome to Covert BK.
Our newest location in the gorgeous Hill Country includes Buick, GMC, Cadillac, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, and hundreds of pre-owned and certified vehicles for you to choose from. We have 3 service departments that are ready to take care of your car, truck, or SUV with 86 service bays to accommodate any repair and get you in and out quickly. Come visit us today to select the vehicle you've been dreaming about.
Covert, born and raised in Austin.
Shout out to Leaf Landscape Supply, a full service and wholesale and retail plant nursery and landscape supplier here in the ATX. They have 2 terrific locations. Y'all should check both of them out. If you're up north, hit up the one on Pond Springs Road. If you're down south, hit up the one off Monterey Oaks and 290. If you're looking for large quantities of supplies to fulfill any landscaping job, trendy house plants, a collection of specialty plants and rare plants, Leaf Landscape Supplies, your one-stop shop for everything you need. Go to their website at leaflandscapesupply.com so you can check it out before you get there, what you want. And when you do get there and you're in the checkout line, let them know your boy Zay Collier put you on, the boys at Texas Sports Unfiltered, and you get 10% off. 10% off, can't beat that at Leaf Landscape Supply.
Hi, this is Tom McKay, owner of Audiovisual Consultations.
I got this, Dad. This is Camilla McKay, and my dad can help with any TV or stereo needs you have around your house. Just call him, and he will come to you with advice and a great price. And the guys that work for him are awesome. They can install anything, anywhere. So, like my dad says, just relax and smile. We handle all the work.
So just give us a call at 255-8678 or on the web at avconsultations.com.
All right, back here on Open Gym here on Tech Sports Unfiltered. Let's get into some talk about the draft combine. They announced the players that will be coming and being invited to the draft combine. Texas comes in with 14. That is tied with Georgia for the second most. Ohio State has 15 players invited. That will be the most for any team. But 14 tied with Georgia. That is not a bad place to be. Texas had 11 players drafted last season. And we'll see if they can top that number. That'd be a huge amount. That would be a huge coup for Sark, where this is a Texas team that just the draft seemed to fall more and more off. We used to talk about how this team was really the best at creating undrafted free agents, because the problem with Texas was they didn't develop players, and you could get great talent because Texas recruited great talent, and then it would come out the other end the same way. It was kind of like when you eat corn. That is how it came out for Texas, and those players came out and they were not ready to be at an NFL level, but as undrafted free agents, you could build them up. They were great players and had a ton of talent. So it is, it's great to see now that Texas is falling more into the area of being able to bring in some more of these, or getting more names brought in that list. The list for you is probably not too many surprises. Quinn Ewers, Jaden Blue, Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, Gunnar Helm, Kelvin Banks, Hayden Connor, Jake Majors, Cameron Williams, Vernon Broughton, Alfred Collins, Barron Sorrell, Jade Barron, and Andrew Makuba. Not too many surprises there. I think we kind of thought all these people were going to go. Barron Sorrell would probably have been one that was more of a surprise earlier in the season or in the offseason, that maybe he was not necessarily on NFL radars as much as he got into it. But I would, if you want to talk about who you'd say maybe could have been left off if they really wanted to, if this was an old school, didn't trust Texas as much, if Texas wasn't producing as much, maybe that's a name. Maybe it's a Hayden Connor. I mean, maybe it's a Jake Majors. Maybe one of those guys, make one of them slips off and you get to 13. But in reality, it feels like all those guys deserve to be in this combine.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking at the list right now. Maybe I'm a little biased. I don't know, but I feel like all 14 of these guys have absolutely a shot to get drafted.
100%.
And they already set a school record last year for the amount of players drafted in one NFL draft. Last year was also the record for the most players that they had at the combine. And this year breaks that record for combine. And now they have a chance to break the record for NFL drafts 1 year later. So obviously Sark's doing something right. Obviously the development staff's doing something right. Another interesting stat here too is that those 25 players that have been invited to the NFL scouting combine over the last 2 years is tied with Georgia for the most in the country. Yeah. So you're doing something right. Recruits are going to recognize it. They're going to say, okay, Texas can get me to the NFL. So yeah, that's huge.
I believe we saw Sark tweet out earlier, or Instagram out, or whatever, that he put out, development. Just hashtag development. It has been the massive change of this regime in Texas football has been the player development, and that goes to the hiring of the coaches, to the coaches themselves, that a guy like Vernon Broughton feels like in previous eras of Texas football would have been the guy who just never really reached his potential. Alfred Collins in that as well. Guys that you kept saying, there's something there, and they were never given up on. They stayed with the program. They didn't transfer out in a world where a lot of times when you're not getting your run that you want early because there's other guys in front of you. And I mean, top guys, these are guys getting drafted, but a lot of times you'll see those guys transfer out or they never quite reach that potential they did this season. And now they're getting their desserts. There's for being able to go to this combine, and when they get drafted and hear their name called in the draft, it's amazing the difference it makes with this different thought of developing players. And I don't know what it is of how big the difference is that quick, because it's not a money issue. Clearly, it's not anything else. It's just a culture and a thought process to really spend the time developing the players and then trusting that you can implement game plans quicker. Instead of, I think, some other coaches, taking more and more time worrying about the strategy of the game than the basics. But we go, like, just the thought of Bo Davis to Kenny Baker, like, that's a ridiculous transition that a lot of people didn't think, but you could see that you see the guys that worked with both of them, and they would talk about the differences, but just saying, it was really about the fundamentals, and it's really about teaching the game and realizing that not all these guys come, they come from Texas high school football, a lot of them, and really good programs, but not all of them necessarily were the ones that at 16 years old probably listened as intently to every little technique and everything and drill it back in. Now, when you're 16 and you're just trying to have fun in high school and you go, I'll go to college and then I'll do it. And then, some coaches, I think, just go, no, he knows the basics. We don't need to teach it again. And this team feels like they teach you the basics, just remind you about the fundamentals over and over again. And then when you get to that point, you can continue to grow and take other pieces onto it and learn more things. But without that basis, you can't. Sark's coaches have embraced that. It feels like it's a Nick Saban thing too. And for what they've done, creating this 14 players on this list is really an impressive feat.
Yeah, and to your point, 11 of those 14 guys are guys that you recruited and signed. I mean, obviously, Sark didn't bring in Vernon Broughton or Alfred Collins or Jahdae Barron, but they were pretty young in his program when he got here.
They stayed.
So those are all homegrown guys. The only guys that aren't on that that don't fit that criteria are Isaiah Bond, who is still, despite having struggles in the second half of the season, is still a fringe first-round pick, probably second round, but he's close. Matthew Golden was not really on NFL radars before he got to Texas, and now he's, some people are saying, the number one receiver in the class, which is bonkers to think about. And that goes to Sark, that goes to the wide receivers coach, that goes to the whole offensive staff and helping develop him. And then Andrew Makuba is the other one who just came in from Clemson. But I don't know that if Makuba had stayed at Clemson, that he would have the same draft stock as he did after a tremendous, absolutely tremendous 2025 season. He was a huge difference maker. So, it really just speaks to the culture and the development of the program. And, when you talk about guys like Gunnar Helm, nobody would have expected Gunnar Helm to be arguably the best tight end in college football this year. I mean, you got the guy at Penn State, and a couple other ones, but he's right up there in the top five, and he's going to be.
No. I mean, I remember having conversations all going into it about hopefully Juan Davis can step up, and hopefully you have some guys step up, because Gunnar Helm is just probably not athletic enough or able to go out there and win these one-on-ones and be able to get the ball. And you had to eat your crow on that one. You had to eat your crow on that one. He made everybody, but that's, again, as much as we say give credit to coaches too, it's the same thing we talk about in recruiting. When you get quality players and you get guys who want to be part of it and for years do what they're supposed to do and build. And when you put those refining touches on top of the foundation, you've built it so strong that you take a Gunnar Helm who you feel is a really good player and can do some things. And then you say, well, what about if we teach him these 3 moves? And all of a sudden he takes to the next level. That development and that ability of the players cannot be understated, that they're bringing in really good guys. Matthew Golden is a guy you bring in later, but he falls into that. You have to give Matthew Golden a ton of credit for coming in, being humble, never really making it about him, but just working his butt off. to be the guy that down the stretch when Bond gets hurt, he takes over.
Yeah, absolutely. And when Matthew Golden came in, he was kind of the third or fourth story of that wide receiver group. They had Bond coming in, who everybody thought was going to be the number one guy. You had Jonte Cook, who everybody thought was going to step up, and look what happened there. And then Silas Bolden was a very, very exciting player at Oregon State. You had the 5-star freshman Ryan Wingo coming in. Golden was kind of an afterthought. It was like, okay, he'll be a number 3 receiver probably. He'll do some stuff on special teams. And then he ends up being your biggest offensive weapon in the college football playoff. So that's incredible in itself. And then with Gunnar Helm, when Jatavian Sanders left, I'm not sure that anybody thought Texas would have a viable tight end option. They tried to bring in Amari Niblack. That obviously didn't work out very well. And then all Gunnar Helm did was become Quinn Ewers, safety valve and his most trusted target, make huge play after huge play. That catch against Oklahoma is something that is one of the best plays of the season. He scored the game winner against Arizona State. There's countless times where he stepped up and was a big part of Texas being a national championship contender. So, those are all things that you look at and you're like, okay, even when guys are towards the end of their development cycle, or we feel like they're at the end of their development cycle, you still turn them into, first, second, third, fourth round picks. Barron Sorrell is another great example of this.
Oh yeah.
100%. He was always a very talented player, but there were things that he just couldn't quite get over the hump. And then this year, he was one of the best pass rushers in the SEC. He was a all-star at the Senior Bowl, and now he's firmly in the day 2 realm for pass rushers in the draft. And then, Jahdae Barron wins the Thorpe Award, has one of the best seasons in Texas football history in the secondary, which is really something to say, because Texas has been DBU for a long time. Michael Huff, Earl Thomas, Aaron Ross, Rod Babers, all of these guys who were just incredible. And, Barron could put his name right up there with them. So it's very, very impressive.
It is. So I want to get into this, and I want to pose this question to the listeners as well. If you want to jump into the chat or on the text line as well, jump in there. 512-222-9328 is that number if you want to jump in the text line. But I want to ask you about the 14 names that are there. There are some names that people think maybe should have been on there as well. I get that when you say Ohio State has 15, that's the most. They are trying to limit the amount of people overall that are there. There's reasons why they don't take everybody, but there are some names. I will tell you the seniors, and this is not every senior. I'll leave a couple off because they didn't really play. But guys who actually saw the field a little bit during their senior season: Jermaine Lole, Tiola Savea, Juan Davis, Mo Blackwell, David Binda, Bill Norton, and Silas Bolden are all guys that did not get invites. And they're all seniors. Bert Auburn also didn't. But I don't think.
Well, he's coming back next year, I think.
Is he coming back in? He's a senior, but he's a senior. So,
yeah.
But it's so just listing seniors who played. I thought mention his name. But going through there, I think that the name that I've seen the most of people being about is Silas Bolden. That he is somebody that. And I think we actually got a text on this. So go over to my text line and see. Very happy for the first 14 invited to the combine. Binda, Norton, Silas weren't invited, unfortunately. Still rooting for them to make an NFL team. Sark did Silas wrong, in my humble opinion. Why would he use more? I do think Binda and Norton are guys that can definitely find a practice squad at least and see if they can move up. A guy like Bill Norton and even Jermaine Lole to a certain extent, were just big body guys that if they're in the right place at the right time and there's some injuries and, man, they just need someone to step in and be a run stopper and just try and take up 2 holes, those guys may get a shot, and you just have to do the most of the opportunity you get put into. For Texas, they were brought in because we really had no idea about our depth. Oh, that was Chan there. I appreciate you, Chan, chiming in. Always enjoy when Chan chimes in, if I can say that. But I think that those guys, were brought in and they were used a ton. Bill Norton especially was used a ton. But they were kind of in that world where we had no idea. You have a change in a coach. Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton had not been proven commodities to you at all. You're losing so much, and they just said we need more options at defensive tackle. We need to be able to stop the run at some point. Both those guys did pretty well for Texas in that role put into. I think they could get there. For me, I'll say I like Silas Bolden. I think he did a good job. I think he could do a lot of things. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to bust more punts. I think he had one punt return for a touchdown. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get more going. Unfortunately, it does. I think his size played a big part of it in the SEC, that he just wasn't getting open. He did get open on some, and they just weren't able to connect. Unfortunately, it was the fact that they didn't throw the ball deep. They played a lot of deep coverage, and something that Silas Bolden is really, really good at is getting open downfield and making crazy catches. And they played safeties over the top a lot of times, and Quinn is not going to throw into that because he knows he makes too many mistakes. He knows he doesn't have the accuracy. So he just didn't throw those passes this season. You didn't see a lot of downfield shots. And so if that's Silas Bolden's bread and butter, he can do other things, but you don't want to put him over the middle over and over again, or you're going to get him killed. You don't want to put him, so there's only certain things you could really do with him. I think they used him in the run game 2 or 3 times. It didn't really work there either. They knew that when they saw him moving, what they were trying to do with him. So I think he was just I think he has a potential to do a lot of things, especially in the new kickoff rules. The punt return, you could see him get an opportunity. I'm pretty sure he'll definitely end up at least on a practice squad, and they'll see what they can work out and what he can do. He's had to prove himself over and over again at his size, so I don't think it's anything new for him. I am somewhat upset that we don't get to see his official measurements from a combine. I think just as a Texas fan, I would have liked to known, because I've heard all the people that would go who were around him, and basically every time anybody would be around him, they would come back and say, this guy's smaller than he's listed. This guy's smaller than you think he is. He's tiny.
Yeah.
and so that's one of the reasons why you probably don't get invited to a combine, but also you would have liked to see how small he could have been. I like a lot of stuff he did. I don't think Sark did him dirty. I think Sark was trying to win football games. And again, there's a line between trying to make everybody happy and trying to win football games. He could have probably been used better in 2 or 3 situations. Yes. Sark would go back and say, if you gave me again, I'd use him. But for the most part, he just wasn't able to find a situation where his specific skill set worked with what Quinn Ewers did well. And that rapport never built itself up into a world that I think he felt confident when teams were just dropping back. I mean, Sark kept saying that over and over and over again last year when people get mad that he wasn't throwing the deep ball. He goes, well, tell them to stop lining up, dropping 2 safeties on us. If they stop doing that, we'll throw the deep ball. And that just kind of felt like Silas Bolden. His fate was everyone dropping 2 safeties.
Yeah, and against Texas last year, you kind of had to do that with all the speed they had at wideout.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Isaiah Bond and Ryan Wingo and Matthew Golden, all those guys had speed and could beat you over the top. So you had to find a way to combat that. And most teams played a cover 3 shell, and that's just what they had to deal with all year. But one of the things about Silas Bolden, I think why he didn't get so much run, is the size thing obviously plays a factor, but Texas was confident in Ryan Wingo coming into the season. I don't think that they realized how good he was going to be as a true freshman. So I think that he got a lot of run that they weren't, or a lot of reps that they weren't expecting him to get later down in the season. Like when the season first started, they didn't anticipate him being that good. So I think that played a role. And then DeAndre Moore, obviously, you have to put him into the equation because he was incredible for most of the season. He had a few drops and things like that, but he was Jordan Whittington 2.0. You have to get him the ball too. You have to get Gunnar Helm the ball. So I think it was just a matter of there was just too many cooks in the kitchen, and they had a lot of depth. And then Bolden was kind of
they were so overloaded that the fact they lost Jonte Cook and he didn't play really didn't affect them that much. Now you would have loved to have him down the stretch when Isaiah Bond got hurt. You would have had to love to have another person there. But even that, where that guy was supposed to be, something more of what Ryan Wingo was for us this season. You expected Jonte Cook to be in more of that area. But I agree with you. There was just too many guys, and we call them boutique backs. When you have the smaller backs, that can only really be used in certain situations. Silas Bolden feels like he is a boutique receiver, that you just can't use him as an every down wide receiver. Plus, Sark loves blocking wide receivers. He loves blocking wide receivers. DeAndre Moore, the reason why he got every opportunity is because he's a blocking wide receiver.
Yeah, it's a critical part of their offense.
And Silas Bolden, as much as you want him to be, can't really be a blocking wide receiver because guys can blow him up, and they're going to take their shots on him too in those places. And look, the same as Xavier Worthy was, as people got mad at him because he got beat up a lot, that guy would keep getting back on the field. I think Silas Bolden's the same way. I don't think you're going to keep him down. But if you keep having to pull him out of a game and it's second down and he takes a hit while you're trying to run a ball, and then you put him back in on third down, and he can't go back in the game because someone just stepped on him or did something else to him because they just were going to try and, beat him up, then that's where those problems lie. But I think that kind of hurt him as well, is he just couldn't do everything. It feels like he had moments where he was really starting to figure it out, and then maybe would take a step back because you'd see times that Sark would talk really highly about him, and then the next week it would kind of push back on that talk, and then it would go back and say, oh, he'd always say, it's like, he's really figuring it out, or something like that, you equate it to some basketball players that, they could be great on one team, and then you change the way the offense is run, and they're just terrible. Or, if you don't get the ball in your hands all the time. I think for Silas Bolden, it just kind of worked out where there was a ton of people, and unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. Sark would have loved to use him because I think Sark, guys like that, I think Sark loves. I think Sark has a type, and speedy, small guys Sark loves. So I think he would have loved to use him more, and he couldn't figure out a way to do it. So it's all those pieces into it. It's disappointing. It was disappointing, but I do think it doesn't matter. He's going to get an opportunity to get a shot. And in all reality, is if he doesn't get drafted, or he doesn't end up, he'll be in the UFL, and you'll be watching him in fall because he'll be so much fun. He'll be in the CFL, like he'll play. It'll be a question of, does he get his opportunity in the NFL next season, or does it take him a little bit longer of a route to prove as a smaller guy that he can go in and make those plays?
Yeah, I remember when I was playing football back, even when I was a little kid, you would always want to, as a linebacker or a defensive lineman or whatever, you always want to or a safety, you want to find the guy. It's always fun to find the guy that's so skinny that you can just lay a big lick on him.
Yep.
So I think Silas probably suffered from that a little bit. If he was coming across the middle or whatever, the safeties or linebackers just lick their chops, like, I'm going to blow this guy up. So that's one thing. But I also wanted to bring up another name for guys that I think could make a practice squad or find a home in the league. I like the Bill Norton and Jermaine Lelay ideas. I think that Bill Norton is a guy who I could absolutely see getting drafted like 7th round or something like that, just because he's so big and powerful. But the one guy that I keep coming back to in my head is Mo Blackwell. So obviously he's not the biggest guy. And he played linebacker at very undersized, but I really think that he could be a special teams demon in the NFL. I think he's going to find himself on a practice squad, and they're going to see what he can do in special teams on kick coverage and punt coverage. And I think he's going to be able to find a home that way. I really do. He's extremely hard worker, good culture guy, and all those things. But he, when you find the guys that can bring the wood on special teams and make a difference there, that's invaluable to an NFL franchise, because you don't have to pay those guys a whole lot. They're the 58th man on your roster, whatever, but they can still make an impact. And every team has one of those guys, or they're looking for one of those guys.
Yep.
So he could be a good candidate for something like that too.
I agree with that. And I'll throw in Juan Davis as a guy who you could put, especially when you see these McShanahan offenses that want a fullback on your roster. A guy like that who you throw in the Andrew Beck name, but a guy who can block. And, you say, look, he's got good enough hands that if we want to run a little trick play or we want to hand it off to him up the middle, maybe he can be in there. But he's a good athlete. All reports are he is a tremendous kid in practice. And so if you say, let's put him out there and see what he can do in that fullback, kind of tight end fullback position, hybrid, maybe put him around and just see if we can use him as a third tight end in blocking and as a fullback in blocking. I think he's somebody that you can't necessarily do that with everybody because they want a bigger role. Juan Davis seems just fine taking the role he's going to take He did it for Texas this year, even though it may have been a shot for him. He was going to enter the transfer portal and came back to Texas and did his role all season long. So he is somebody that, you could see again make a practice squad. I don't see him getting drafted, but making a practice squad and then possibly making a roster if he can get in and endear himself to a coach who wants to run that style of offense and wants to run the football. I think he could 100% find himself on an NFL roster. So there's hope. And I agree with you. Bill Norton, I think, is a guy who could get drafted late. David Binda, possibly very late, is one of those names. So you could see, and Silas Bolden definitely could as well. So seeing 15 players drafted is not out of the realm of possibility, depending on, I know last year kind of threw everything off because last year you had the COVID year where a lot of guys stayed one more year. And so it was just such a weak back end of a draft. You didn't have as many players. It feels like you'll get a little bit more in this year. So you may lose a couple guys that would have been, 6th, 7th round picks last season, may not make it this year. We'll end up seeing how that turns out. More and more with the transfer portal and NIL, how much are people drafting guys that are already thought to have been on top teams and they really feel good about? How much are you trying to find that diamond in the rough that nobody found on a smaller team? Those are all questions that you have to see in the draft coming up. But yeah, there's definitely several players on this Texas team. 14 players, though, is a great accomplishment for Texas. It shows you what they've done in recruiting, and it shows you what they've done in development, and that's what you really want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a record year for them again. Who knows what's going to happen after next season? Maybe they'll have 15 or 16 guys drafted and invited to the combine. You never know.
I mean it'll be tough. Now, the good news is you're starting some younger guys that'll probably have a little bit more consistency next year because you will have, hopefully Arch not leaving, hopefully.
I don't want to have that conversation yet.
No, but I'm just saying of those guys, you have some offensive linemen that'll be there for 2 years. You'll have some other guys that may stick around for a little bit more, but then you have guys like Ethan Burke, who's going to be a good pick coming out, and guys like that. So there will always be people pushing up and out. We don't know about Manny Muhammad or somebody like that. More safeties, and it's Texas. You're always going to have people going. It's that dual-edged sword. You go 14 people at the combine. That's awesome. Wait. Lost 14 important players on our team. Oh no. But they've done a great job recruiting and developing, so you feel good about it. I'd much rather lose 14 players to the NFL than just lose 14 players because they're seniors. It feels
14
much
players
better.
in the transfer portal.
Exactly. We just feel much better of it if, okay, well, we're losing them because they're so good that we got them there, and we feel we have the ability to do that more and more. I do
you could be Texas A&M and bring in the top recruiting class in the history of forever, and then end up losing almost every single one of those guys to the transfer portal or suspension or getting kicked off the team and all those things. It's a little bit better to be sending guys to the NFL.
It is always a little bit better. By the way, I believe A&M three invitees to the draft combine. Just if in case you have anybody you want to talk trash to, there's your three. It's
the Shamars and Nick Scorton, and all three of those guys are going to get drafted. But you quote unquote hate to see it if you're a Texas fan.
There you go. All right, let's get into a little NFL talk as we get into hour 2 here on Open Gym here on Texas Sports Unfiltered. We appreciate everybody who's tuning in and listening. If you want to join the conversation, feel free over there on the text line 512-222-9328 or on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or X there on the chat room, and you can feel free to join in. Salman Chan asked about Tashard Choice. We've already hit that in the first hour. We only got 2 hours, so I don't know if we'll be able to go back and give you the 30-minute answer we gave you for Tashard Choice, Chan, but these are available in podcast, as you know, Chan, and you can go back and check out what we were talking about earlier. We did give you about 30 minutes on Tashard Choice, I think, talking about him, and it's going to be a huge impact. Texas will be okay. But it will be a huge impact. It will be felt, but they'll be okay. Let's get into our contractually obligated Aaron Rodgers news, as everybody in sports media has to talk about him. It came out today that the Jets have said officially they are moving on from Aaron Rodgers. The Aaron Rodgers era is over after one snapped Achilles and one not great season. They've decided it's over. It's a very Jets move. just extremely Jets to have all the hype in the world, and then nothing really positive come out of it. You basically just wasted the years where you were able to pay a guy that much money and spend a ton of money, and you spend it all on Aaron Rodgers and his friends, and you got nothing to show for it, except now you're going to have to pay Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson and all these really good players and Breece Hall that are on your team. But he is now moving on from the Jets. That now opens up the Jets that they do not have a top draft pick, that they're going to be able to get one of the top two guys. You do not feel they're going to be able to get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. Those guys will go by the latest. Both will be gone by 6. If not before that, most likely before that. But by 6, by the Raiders, you will have both of them gone for sure. So
I love Hair of the Dog's question here. I'm not going to repeat it, but yes, I think he did Hair of the Dog.
no, he's not flaming anymore. That bag's been out for a while. He was flaming in the MVP years. It's been out now. Hair of the Dog. I know. So he is out now, but he is now a free agent. And apparently, because he's pissed off, and even though every single year he says he might retire, now he seems more than ever he doesn't want to go out like this. We know that he had that in college as well. He was not thrilled going out the way he went out in college. I think he wants to have that one hurrah and prove everybody wrong. But as of right now, it really looks like Green Bay was 1,000,000% right, and Aaron Rodgers was 1,000,000% wrong. And everybody, I don't think he wants to lose the argument that badly. He's lost the argument. It's over. They made the right move. But I don't think he wants to lose it as badly. So he is now out looking for a job. And that puts us in a place where we start to get to discuss where we think Aaron Rodgers might end up. And the question for where Aaron Rodgers might end up leads you to a thing that I've talked about a little bit this year, and I started to look into. Normally, there's like 10 to 12 teams looking for a quarterback in the NFL. Normally. You just have a lot of teams pushing over. But because so many teams drafted a quarterback in the first round last year, and a lot of guys went out and signed people, that it feels like it's not the same amount of teams. So I have 6 teams that I think are on your main radar for Aaron Rodgers. And now a lot of these guys are going to draft somebody or get somebody another way. And then I have 3 just kind of wild card teams out there. But I'll go through, and this is, I'll tell you, the first 3 are also the top 3 in Vegas right now of where the Vegas thinks that Aaron Rodgers will end up next season. First is Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has been in a weird place. They keep winning enough games that they never get to draft a top quarterback. But they are just rotating through. We do not believe Russell Wilson or Justin Fields will probably be back there next season. The experiment did well for a little bit, but it just feels like that was a 1-year thing anyway. Do they go one more year and see what they can do with Aaron Rodgers? I don't necessarily think they will. It doesn't feel like it's a Mike Tomlin decision, so unless it's made above his head, it doesn't feel like he's a culture fit at all for that team.
Mm-hmm.
We can throw in Vegas, which is an interesting pick because if they're at pick 6, they are not able to move up and get Shedeur Sanders, who is, I think, they really, really want. He has ties to Tom Brady. He has ties to Vegas. That feels like where they want him to go. If they are not able to get up and go up and get him, and he gets picked before them, do they take a stopgap quarterback and let him come in and, him and Brady work together and they try and figure something out with Pete Carroll? And I don't know. I don't know if that one, but it's Vegas, so you never know. Maybe a splash to get something positive happening in Vegas. It'd be funny because they trade away Devontae Adams to the Jets to play with Aaron Rodgers. And that would be an interesting one, but that's an interesting one. Cleveland is an interesting one. They need a quarterback. They're paying Deshaun Watson a ton of money, but Deshaun Watson's probably not going to play all of next year. There's injuries there. You say 1 year we'll go out and we're not going to pay you a ton, but who else is paying you? No one's paying you 40. I mean, so maybe we'll pay you 15 or 20 and you can come in. And if you turn around Cleveland, then you look like a great player and you can walk away. And then we'll figure out our quarterback situation next year when it's a little bit easier to get out of Deshaun Watson and a little bit easier to get out of some of these other problems. Tennessee, number 1 pick in the draft. They still have Will Levis on this roster. I don't know if they're full on board with Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders yet. I haven't heard either one of those, but that's an interesting one. Do they try and wait one more year, build up other guys, use that number 1 overall pick to get pieces around them, get more offensive line, get some more defensive help? They ran that really weird defense this year where they didn't have like edges, or they didn't have defensive tackles. It was all like linebackers, and I think it was like 1 defensive tackle or 2 defensive tackles, linebackers, and DBs. I think it was something weird. They didn't have the right personnel. They tried to run it a very weird way. So that'll be an interesting one that maybe they say, we'll do this, and maybe you can talk to Will Levis, and if you kind of grow Will Levis, and I don't know, in that one, the Giants, if they don't take a quarterback this year, I don't know why they wouldn't. They're at the number 3 pick. It feels like they can get one of the guys, Shedeur or Cam Ward, but for whatever reason, that's a team that needs a quarterback desperately, so he's just on the list because they need a quarterback. New Orleans, I don't think Kellen Moore would necessarily want to tie it to that, but if they say we're so cat-strapped because we got rid of Derek Carr, so we'll bring in a $15 million Aaron Rodgers, and that's a better chance for us, then, we were not able to get Sam Darnold, and we don't want to make a long-term commitment at quarterback right now. That's an interesting one, and a couple wild cards I'll throw at you. The Los Angeles Rams. There has been a lot of talk behind the scenes that the Rams are getting rid of Matt Stafford, that this may be a move to go in a different direction, that they're trying to unload cap at this point, that they're going to get rid of Cooper Kupp, that they're going to get rid of Matt Stafford, and they're going to try and fix their cap situation so that they can make another run and then try and bring in another quarterback and get it. Do you go into that, sign a cheaper Aaron Rodgers to stopgap you for a season, get that dead cap out of the way? I don't think it happens, but it's an interesting one. As we have Hair the Dog mentions, the Vikings. The Vikings, they're the best option storyline-wise because Brett Favre did it. If the Vikings feel that J.J. McCarthy recovering from his injury may need a little bit more time, they don't necessarily, the same reason they signed Sam Darnold in the first place. They want to give him a little bit more time to learn, but when he can actually practice and play. So do you put him on the Vikings? That one actually makes a little bit of sense if they decide we don't want to shove J.J. McCarthy right out there after his injury. And then Indianapolis. Does Shane Steichen in Indianapolis say, Anthony Richardson's not winning me anything? Get me an actual quarterback in here. We can win. I'm a really good coach. But if you keep trying to make me do this, we need to bench Anthony Richardson for a year. So get me a quarterback for 1 year, and then we will go to Anthony Richardson after that. But I need to bench him for a year. He's not getting better while we're playing him. He's just not getting better. He's the same guy. And then we benched him for 2 weeks, and he got much better. So let me actually get a guy in here. But all of those don't make sense, which leads you to there's not a place that makes sense for Aaron Rodgers. There just isn't, at 40 years old, a place where anybody makes sense that he would go and be a starting quarterback.
I think that the Vikings is very interesting to me because I don't necessarily know that I'm the only one that thinks this, but and NFL franchises and their scouts probably know more than I do about football, but I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to be a good NFL quarterback. And maybe since they actually have him in the building now, they're like, oh, and so maybe bring in Aaron Rodgers for a year there. Vegas would be interesting just because they don't have anybody currently. I still think they draft a guy. I would love to see Aaron Rodgers go to the graveyard in Cleveland and be another one of the failed quarterbacks there. But the problem you face when you're looking for a guy and Aaron Rodgers is out there, it's like, do you really want your starting quarterback to go do ayahuasca during the offseason and go on all these weird camping trips and all this stuff and bring that sort of attention and controversy to your franchise where, I mean, he tried to run the New York Jets franchise.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing never, ever, ever works. And that's, he's going to try, he thinks he's everything. So he's going to try to do that no matter where he goes. And I think that would spell disaster for any team that is trying to build. But also I don't know that Rodgers would want to go somewhere where they're trying to build and plan for the future because he's just going to come in and say, I'm a Hall of Famer. I'm going to win us a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So you need to do this, that, and the other. I mean, he made the Jets trade for Devontae Adams And now he's gone, and Devontae Adams is probably like, well, damn.
Oh, no, Devontae Adams is probably going too. Like, I mean, there's no reason to keep him there. I don't think his salary is that bad to cut right now. I know he's making money, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be a cap casualty as well. And they'll move him off and just say, screw it. We've screwed up. We got to get rid of it all now. We have to get rid of all of this now. Yeah, I mean, no, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're bringing in a lot more. And not all of that, you know, I'm not a Pat McAfee hater, but I don't want my quarterback who may be disgruntled, which probably disgruntled, going on a talk show every single week to go tell everybody about why all these players on our team are sucking and why the coach is a bad guy and why everything's wrong. I'll deal with your offseason stuff if you're going to win us games, but during the season, I need you to focus on the football and not necessarily airing your dirty laundry on the episode every week where I come in and ask you, is everything okay? And then I get news that you just went on TV and said that everything's not okay.
Yeah.
That worries me more. But I get the Vikings are the one that I think the JJ McCarthy coming off an injury. You can't draft a guy that high and then just not play him ever. You have to give him a shot. But you know, if you say one more year, we'll kind of go out there and figure it out. That kind of makes sense to me a little bit. The Raiders just trying to figure something out, but I don't know if he's going to win there. Like the Vikings, at least they're a good team. They did a lot with Sam Darnold. So you figure maybe if we did all this with Sam Darnold, then maybe that's another point though. Does Aaron Rodgers want to go to an offense and do what the offense wants, or does he play Aaron Rodgers football? And I'm the coach. Because we saw what he did with his OC that sucks and can't win with anybody else. It's Aaron Rodgers' offense. So I don't know if it works there or anywhere else. Does that work with Pete Carroll in Vegas? It's just an interesting, I don't know where it lands. And so do you go, if you're Aaron Rodgers, do you look at fall football and say, you know what? I'm going to go, and if you give me an ownership stake in the UFL, then I'll go save one of these teams and help your team work out better.
That would certainly be interesting. I think he's too prideful to do something like that, honestly. I would love to see it just because I don't want to see him in the NFL anymore. I'm not an Aaron Rodgers guy. I never have been.
I don't know who is at this point.
No, I don't think that exists anymore either. Even if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, who feel like they're like a couple of things away from being a good football team, I would rather go with Justin Fields than Aaron Rodgers. And who thought that anybody?
Sam Darnold. I go Sam Darnold. Just go let's try another guy that maybe we can make work, and we saw what he could kind of do. I go Sam Darnold.
Will work with
day.
Us. Yeah. So the fact that we're sitting here in the year of our Lord 2025 saying I'd rather start Justin Fields than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
That kind of tells you where Aaron Rodgers is.
If you say which former Jets quarterback would you rather sign, and the answer Sam Darnold over Aaron Rodgers, that should tell you how much you've tarnished your legacy if you're Aaron Rodgers. And I get there's a huge age difference in there too. So if you tell me, hey, psychotic 29-year-old Aaron Rodgers wants to be on your team, you're like, yeah, we'll hire him a therapist. I don't care. Bring him in here. He's still winning MVPs. We'll figure it out, because that's what Green Bay did for years, and it worked out. But yeah, it seems it's just an interesting world where we can sit in 2025 and say, I don't know if there's a single team out there who wants Aaron Rodgers. And will it be a situation where Aaron Rodgers does not have a team? And this is very likely too, that Aaron Rodgers just does not sign, but he makes a point to say, I am not retired. And he shows up on Pat McAfee and says, I'm working out every week. And when one of these quarterbacks inevitably gets hurt, I will be ready. And if Brock Purdy goes down, Kyle, you know you wanted me. I'm coming to San Francisco and we're winning a title. Or any of these quarterbacks, but there's no place for him with these quarterbacks healthy. But if quarterback gets hurt and now you're winning games, I don't want to lose this season. Give me one season of Aaron Rodgers and I'll move on. That feels like the Aaron Rodgers real path right now is I got to wait. I do love on the text line. As an Indy fan, please don't give me Aaron Rodgers. Nobody wants him. But I think if you're 8 games in, you're 6-2, you're feeling really good, and your quarterback gets hurt. I don't know. That phone call, you may want to make that phone call. All right, what you got?
So as we've seen over the last few years, Dak Prescott has a very hard time staying healthy.
Yeah.
How much would Jerry Jones love the media fanfare attention if Dak Prescott either isn't ready to go at the beginning of next season or gets hurt again and Aaron Rodgers is just sitting there with no team? The Cowboys would be the biggest, they already are, but the biggest media story of 2025 if Aaron Rodgers is attached to that. I mean, it's obviously a very big, long shot, and a lot of different things that have to happen. And then you have to think, okay, does Jerry Jones not want to be the center of attention, which I talked about yesterday? But it's interesting to think about, like, if the Cowboys are confident and they're a good team and then Dak goes down, I mean, it's not outside of the realm of possibility. If you paint him like a one-year thing.
I'd more on Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Aaron Rodgers, I think he would come in and game one be like, or day one in the facility, there's no more tours. I can't do tours. No one can be around me. And hey, we got to put a curtain on there. Like, it feels like it wouldn't even be football things. He would just come in. And so it wouldn't work because he'd want all these concessions that Jerry Jones is just not going to give up. So I just don't see that relationship working because Jerry Jones has to be in charge. Jerry Jones has to be the guy, and Aaron Rodgers has to be the guy, and he has to be in charge. And so it feels like that it could not last. Now, if Hard Knocks wants to come along and say, we will pay you both $20 million to do this, then let's do it up. And Jerry, that's the only reason Jerry would do it. If it came free and he made money off the deal, they go, Jerry, we're going to put you on TV again because everybody wants to see the Crypt Keeper do another season. I don't think that. I think that's the only way that you see Aaron Rodgers in a Cowboys uniform, because also they're not competing for a Super Bowl. And
they're not. They think they are, but they're not.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I think you'd see it. It's like if you talk about, and I don't want to knock on wood, I don't want to wish ill will on any of these, but if a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen or somebody like that went down, and you go, we know this team's there, or a Jalen Hurts even. You know, if Jalen Hurts goes down, somebody like that, and he goes, no, I can come in. I'm the best quarterback who's ever lived. Forget Tom Brady. Forget Peyton Manning. Forget everybody before them. It's just me, Aaron Rodgers, and I'm available, and I'm ready. That's where I think it would most likely be, but who knows? In 2 weeks, he'll sign with Cleveland, and they'll hate each other in 3 weeks. I don't know. Who knows? And maybe we will get the Matt Gallatin special of Jerry Jones and Aaron Rodgers recreating The Odd Couple. One likes Johnny Walker and the other likes ayahuasca. It's Aaron Rodgers and Jerry Jones keeping it up, and then Micah Parsons just talking on his podcast about it. It just seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, what's those old movies with John Lemon and where they're
Grumpy Old Men?
Yeah, it'd be like Grumpy Old Men all over again.
Yes, and I agree with you, Chan. If it does happen, we'll never stop talking about it, and it'll be the most fun every week. It'll be what's the show called? We're just talking about. I know Texas just won a national championship. Did you see what Jerry Jones and Aaron Rodgers did? We'll just keep talking about it. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Cowboys here in just a minute. We'll get into some little preview there. I want to get a little preview, not a ton preview, but a little preview of the Texas women's basketball as well. And, if you guys got something you want to talk about there on the text line or on the chat, throw that in as well. We got about 30 minutes left here on Open Gym, so we want to get to everybody here on the Open Gym. Everybody gets a shot up here at Open Gym. And but we're going to play a quick little break for you for a word from our sponsors, as these are the people that keep us on I won't even say on the air, but all rolling here and keep us up and operational here at Tech Sports Unfiltered, our great sponsors.
Hi, I'm Hayden Covert. Welcome to Covert Buick GMC of Bee Cave, your home in the Hill Country for new and pre-owned Buick and GMC vehicles. With beautiful inventory arriving daily, including the GMC Yukon, Sierra 1500, and Buick Enclave, you'll be certain to find the perfect vehicle at an incredible deal. Our service department is also open for all your vehicle maintenance needs. Visit us today for a test drive. Covert, born and raised in Austin. We are professional grade.
Altstadt Beer, the best beer that you can find all throughout the great state of Texas. Y'all know I've been a fan of Altstadt for years now, and if you try it, I think you will be too. If you've already tried it, you know exactly what I am talking about. Altstadt is brewed locally in Fredericksburg, but available all over the state of Texas. So if you're tuned in Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, it does not matter. You can find Altstadt at a local grocery store or liquor store. They've got a bunch of different brews, something for every beer drinker out there. The Lager, the Kolsch, those are their two flagship beers, both award winners. They are fantastic. The Altstadt Light sacrifices on calories but does not sacrifice on the taste. They've got a great pills, tons of great seasonals as well. I'm telling you, one sip and you won't go back to the other beers you've been drinking in the past. It is the official beer of BK. It should be the official beer of you as well. It's Altstadt Beer. No impurities, no regrets.
Hi, this is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations. Today's home electronics can be a bit daunting. My company has spent the last 36 years making sure they are not. For those of you who have not experienced our services yet, we'd like to invite you to give us a try for all your home electronics needs. We carry all the major brands of televisions and stereo equipment at prices you can't find in stores. And we come to you. There's no need to leave your home to find great pricing and incomparable service. No traffic and experienced sales geeks or pushy showroom tactics. We believe in having some fun and dreaming big. You have a dream for your home entertainment? Let us know. We can make it come true. And we are always there to help after the job is done. We cultivate clients for a lifetime by treating everyone like their family. No, not those family members. I'm talking about the ones you actually like. So relax, hug your kids, make love to your wife, and smile. Then, when you have a moment, give us a call at 255-8678. That's 512-255-8678. Or online at avconsultations.com.
Back here on Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered. Got about 30 minutes left. You want to join the conversation, feel free there in the comments on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X, or you can jump over on the text line. 512-222-9328 is the text line number. I did want to bring this up with you, Matt, because I know you are a Cowboys fan. I know that is a difficult place. I was talking to a friend last night, and he says, I think the worst decision I ever made in my life was deciding to become a Cowboys fan. And I said, you didn't decide it, buddy. You were born into it. And it's a cross you bear, man. That is what it is. And that is, we've seen now Micah Parsons, who we know we talked about, there was internal discussions about him possibly leaving or possibly getting traded. That all seems a bit overblown, but it was it's Dallas being Dallas. We also know that he is somebody that has a contract coming up, and he's somebody that wants to win. And last year was a rough season for him because they had been going in the right direction. He was working with his man, Dan Quinn, who he said, this is the guy I want to play for the rest of my life. And that didn't work out. Now he's got a new coach in Zimmer, who we didn't necessarily have bad words to say for, but definitely not the same kind words. But still talk good about the defense. A lot of people were disparaging them. People really exploited him defensively, and Dallas could do nothing to stop it. That they just ran right at him all season. He's rushing the quarterback, and they just run past him. So he's got to work on some things, but Dallas has to understand how to build a team instead of just getting a bunch of players and sending them out there. And, that's why you talk with your coaches when you draft and you sign players. But I don't need to tell the Joneses how to run a team. They know what they're doing. But that was sarcastic. But we know Micah Parsons has come out and he has said that he is tired of the Cowboys not going out. He's tired of watching other teams get better while the Cowboys stand still. He does not want that to happen anymore. And we saw him tweet out the other day at Myles Garrett, let's stop Thanos and friends, with the Robert Downey Jr. with the glove on. He is, and so he wants them to bring in Myles Garrett. He wants them to go out and sign free agents. Micah Parsons is pushing for all this. Is this a Micah Parsons that you think will walk in and be somebody that does not exist in very many pro sports teams or in life in general, and say, I will give you a reasonably pretty fair deal for you to go out, but you have to do these other things, and then I will sign this deal. I'm not going to sign and let you screw me over by then not bring anybody else in. But if you say I'm going to make this trade or you go out and bring in these free agents, then I'll walk back in here and we'll sign this contract and we'll go on and we'll go win some championships. Is Micah Parsons going to be able to sway Jerry Jones at all? Or is this going to end up how we all kind of think it will? That Micah Parsons will wait and Jerry will lowball him. Jerry will say, how can we build a good team if we have to pay all our players? And then every other NFL team says, yeah, we've done it. Stephen Jones will say, if you want to win a championship, you'll be in cap hell. And they say, I don't care. We just want to win a championship. That's the whole point. That's why it's set up this way. It's set up to not let teams win 4 or 5 in a row, but it's also in a place where everyone can get up and compete. So go up and compete. We know the story. It's been the same thing for the last 10, 15 years. So if we know that this is the same story for the Cowboys, it was worse before that, but we know that's the story. Is it going to be we wait till last minute, nothing gets done, and instead of paying other players and working with Micah and really trying to make this a big win, they're just gonna wait till last minute and then overpay him? I mean, you can't really overpay him, but overpay him in theory.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of layers to this. The first one is I do think Micah would be willing to take the pay cut. He's already come out and said that he doesn't need a $40 million contract or whatever. He just wants to win. He was quoted saying that. So I believe that he would do that with the contingency that the Cowboys go out and sign some people.
Yeah.
The problem is they don't have the history of doing that, so you can't trust it. And if I was Micah Parsons' agent, I would say, keep your mouth shut. They're not going to do that. Get as much money as you can or go somewhere else where you actually might have a chance to win a championship. I think that another layer to that is Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones always thinks that he's the smartest person in the room. He thinks he's responsible for all the Cowboys' success in the 90s and all of the things that came with it. But that, in my opinion, and a guy that I used to work with, Jeff Kavanaugh, pointed this out really well on one of his shows in the last couple weeks. That was all Jimmy Johnson. Jerry had nothing to do with that. That was Jimmy Johnson coaching those guys, putting in his system, putting in his culture, getting guys like Troy Aikman, who were the spearhead of the franchise that kept everybody in line. They haven't had that since Jimmy Johnson left. I don't think that's
and just look at it's a 30 for 30, the great trade robbery. But that trade where he got all the draft picks and then picked the right guys and all of that, that all of that was Jimmy. That wasn't Jerry's genius to put. That was Jimmy Johnson. Now, I'd love to see Jerry Jones' response to that because I'm sure he'd say that it was actually his idea. But from all reports, it was Jimmy Johnson that did all of that. So not just the coaching, but the general managing too was all Jimmy Johnson.
And I have such a hard time seeing Jerry being swayed by any player who tries to come in and swing his weight around, no matter who they are. I don't think it would matter if Dak Prescott came in there and said it. I don't think it would matter if CeeDee Lamb came in there and said it. Micah Parsons. To me, it doesn't matter. Jerry is going to do what he wants. He's going to not want to go over the cap. He's going to want to do this, do that, and run things his way. So I don't think that there's a chance that he's going to get swayed by a player. And even if you're Micah Parsons and you get him to agree that, yeah, I'll sign some people that are, and this is the third layer of it, like if you agree to take that pay cut, I will sign some players. There's no history that says that he's going to sign the right guys. The vast majority of the Cowboys' success in terms of players and personnel has come from either the draft or from trades. I can't think off the top of my head a free agent that they signed, and maybe I'm wrong. Somebody can text in and tell me if I'm wrong or put it in the comments or the chat, but I can't think off the top of my head of a guy who they went out and paid big money to in the free agent market that came in and made a huge difference on the team. I just can't. Amari Cooper was a trade. They got some guys that played pretty well, like Malik Hooker had a few minutes there where he was a really good safety and things like that. But it's all draft and the the few trades that they've made that have made a difference in them still not competing for Super Bowls and NFC championships. So I can't see it. And when you're the Dallas Cowboys and you think that you're the biggest roster or the biggest sports franchise in the world and that you should win every championship, and the Washington Commanders, who were the most dysfunctional franchise in the entire NFL, reached an NFC championship before you, and the New York Giants have won 2 Super Bowls. I mean, the only team that is probably more dysfunctional than the Dallas Cowboys is the New York Jets.
I mean, Cleveland's up there.
And Cleveland's up there too, yes. But like even Detroit figured it out. And they were a dumpster fire since the early 90s. And
there's kind of a trend also. It's like the Chargers have not been great. There's teams out there that don't have it. And Jerry Jones is the best marketer in the NFL. He's great at, making yourself the biggest media story and making yourself a bunch of money and all that. I'll give him credit for credit's due on that stuff, but winning games has not been his priority, it feels like. I'm going to go with the trade. I'm going to say it's T.O. When they got T.O., does that count as the acquisition? There's a big
trade, though. That's not a free agent signing.
No, free agent, I don't know. But they don't sign free agents. They never really have.
That's kind of the point, though, is it's like they just don't go out and do those kinds of things. And even if they have money to spend, they're probably just going to end up putting it somewhere else anyway, like re-signing a guy that they probably shouldn't re-sign.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's always been the issue with Jerry is, like, Jerry is one of those old school guys who it's very important for him to not lose a negotiation, or at least in his own mind. And that's why some of those
Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, and some of these last so long because he has to justify to himself that he got something back in it. And in reality, no one knows that I actually won this thing, but I won it. And in free agency, you don't really win negotiations. As a team, the great players have all the leverage. So you're not in his brain, he's negotiating against a player. And in reality, you should think I'm negotiating against the other teams. I'm trying to get a deal of I get the best player, and then I out-negotiated this other GM. And it always feels like he's trying to judge that of I'm trying to out-negotiate their agent, but they have all the leverage, all of it. You have none because you're just saying you're not a Super Bowl winning team that says if you come here, we're winning. You're not offering them any more money or anything else than anybody else is. And if you are, then they'll go to you. You win. You get it. That's how you sign players. So it just feels like he always had this issue with free agency that it doesn't make good financial sense to use free agency. And you go, yeah, but winning is not. It takes all of the pieces, and they really only use one in the draft. And then every once in a while, they'll go out and they'll trade for T.O. or they'll trade for a Amari Cooper, and then make a crazy decision to let Amari Cooper go where they say, well, we're going to cut him unless someone wants to give us something. Like, dude, you can't put a couch out on the street and then ask for money for it. It's on the street. It's free. Once it hit the street, it's free. And you did that with Amari Cooper, and then you wanted a return for it. And you probably could have gotten at least a second for him if you would have waited for it and found the right time, especially because the market blew up like 2 weeks after you did that. But it's just difficult. I think for Micah Parsons, I think what you said first was the reality of the entire situation, which is Micah Parsons right now is trying to do the right thing in his mind. He thinks, I want to win. I want to stay in Dallas. I want to take care of these fans. I want to take care of my teammates. I want to stay and I want to be a guy who is known as a Dallas Cowboys legend. And I was drafted here. I want to play here my whole career. All those pieces together. But at the end of the day, you have to look at it and go, man, I get it. You're fighting against powers higher than yourself. And Jerry Jones is not going to let you win.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work out for – sorry, go ahead.
Oh, good.
I was going to say, if it can't work out for a guy like Luka Doncic with the Mavericks, what makes you think that you're going to win a battle against Jerry Jones with the Dallas Cowboys? It's just not going to happen. And nobody – listen, nobody wants to work it out for the Cowboys more than me. I mean, I was a massive Cowboys fan since I can remember. I remember sitting on my parents' couch with my grandfather watching Super Bowl 30 with my Deion Sanders jersey on and damn near crying when they won the Super Bowl. Like, nobody wants it to work out more than me, but it's just the fact of the matter is it's just not going to happen anytime soon unless there's a massive shift in the way that they run their organization. And I can't see that.
Yeah, or or it's like you just hit on 6 of your 7 picks this year. Like you have hit on, but I mean like hit. Like you draft 3 Hall of Famers and then you got 3 Pro Bowlers behind that. That's what I'm saying. When I say hit, I mean like hit, not well, he was a great 6th-round pick. You got 6 first-round talents out of your picks, and that's just unrealistic. But that's where you're at with the Cowboys, because that's where they've sat for the last few years is, we have to hit on every single pick we take. Every pick has to be as good as what we're selecting them, if not better. And so if you miss on 1 or 2, the entire equation's thrown out, and they haven't compensated back for that. Because the game plan is, well, we'll do this, and then we can keep replacing offensive linemen, and then we'll replace defensive ends. But then you have some injuries. Like Sam Williams will be a good enough player. He'll be an okay player if he can stay on the field. He was getting better, and you're able to use him in positions. But then he goes out. Marshawn Nealon looked pretty good last season when he was playing. So there's options that you have there where you don't have to spend a ton of money. You've drafted those, but then you have to fill. You have to find a defensive tackle. You tried to draft Mozzie Smith. It was a big miss. And so now you have to find one. Now you go get Jermaine Lole and Bill Norton and have fun. But you're going to have to find somebody in there to stop the run. And, you got guys that can rush the quarterback okay, but you don't have the run stoppers. You have to figure out a way to stop the run. Or else, by the way, you'll never beat the Eagles again with Saquon Barkley there. But you can't stop the run. I just feel like there's kind of really obvious things. We haven't seen a lot come out from Jerry Jones recently. We'll see as it gets a little bit closer to the draft, whether he sends the smoke screens out of what players he loves and which ones he doesn't and what he's going to draft. I think the huge question is, do they go Ashton Jeanty or not? I know it's the popular pick. I've seen some people say he goes before them, so they don't even get to make that choice. But I think that for the Cowboys feels like the really line in the sand that was the same part of when they drafted Zeke. And it was, you do not draft a running back at that pick. You just don't do it. We know how good Zeke is, but you do not do it. And as good as he was when he came out, that back end of a first-round draft pick is, you don't want to use a top 4 pick for a guy that not that long later is such a detriment to your team that you've already cut him, brought him back, and he's just washed already. That's why you don't draft it. I get, but at 12, if they go with Ashton Jeanty, then it is more of the same, I think. And I know they could go offensive line if you 5 a guy, if Kelvin Banks fell to them and you get him. I think it's a steal at that pick. It'd just be really interesting to see if they go kind of sticking to long term, or if their one shot is in the draft. I kind of don't want them to take their shot in the draft because it means they won't take it in trade, and it means they won't take it in the free agency. But if you take the shot somewhere else, then you'd feel better about next season.
Yeah. So I understand the not drafting a running back high thing, and I'm not going to sit here and stand on a soapbox for drafting a running back high or anything like that. I think at 12 you can kind of make an argument for it. Just by seeing the kind of impacts that Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson even have had on some of these teams. But when you're doing it at that point, you kind of have to hope that they have a second contract in them like Saquon Barkley does, which is very rare. Yeah. So if I were them, I go offensive line, maybe receiver, but probably offensive line. And then I wait till round 2 and draft the North Carolina kid, or even round 3 and draft Cam Scatterbo, even though he's totally obnoxious. He's still a hell of a running back. So I would probably
like a Jerry Jones guy, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
He feels like a Jerry. That you know what? I think you may have hit the nail on the head on that one. That feels like a Jerry Jones guy right there. I'm going to go draft a guy who is going to be just constantly making headlines and saying things. I could see that one going.
And I'm going to get him on a cheap contract too.
Yeah, and I'll get him, and then he'll want to prove himself, and we'll be fine until if he does prove himself, then I'm screwed because I'm either going to pay him way too much or let him go. It's nowhere in between. There's no middle ground here. I'll never just nail that contract. But yeah, it's an interesting piece. I think Micah Parsons is trying to do the right thing right now. I'm curious how long this is going to go before we start hearing about Micah Parsons starting to lose faith in this team And it's going to be interesting to watch that contract negotiation go through free agency when the new league year starts and the draft. And if he feels, man, we're not getting there. I know he also said a lot after the championship, defense wins championships. He wants him to build up that defense a lot more. We talked about it yesterday, Jerron Bland. That's a question. You're not going to keep him most likely. So if you don't keep Jerron Bland, that hurts you even more. So what do you get out of that? There's just a lot of pieces they're going to have to figure out on that defense and what they put together. And right now it doesn't feel like they have a plan, but I'm interested to see what it is. I will tell you who does have a plan is the Texas women's basketball team. That this team is playing really good basketball. They're coming off a really big win over South Carolina over the weekend on Super Bowl Sunday. They're playing another big game tonight against number 8 Kentucky. They will be playing that game at Kentucky tonight. They're currently a 9.5-point favorite in this game. Just wanted to get to this before we have to head out. But 9.5 point in this game. They play right at 6. So right when we get off here in a few minutes, they will be playing that game. I want to give you a little bit of a preview to look at this. A couple things to keep out an eye for Texas. Kentucky is a team that scores pretty well. They can put up some points. Women's basketball stats are a little bit different because there are some ridiculous blowouts in women's basketball because the level of play across the game is not really there. But they're still averaging 78 points per game. Right now, though, Texas is a defensive juggernaut, 57 points per game allowed. So if you get closer to that 57 number for Kentucky, that's a really good sign for Texas. If you're getting the low 60s, you're fine. High 60s, start to worry if you're Texas that maybe this defense is not containing Kentucky the way they need to. Some players to look out for. The really good guard for Kentucky is Georgia Amore. She's averaging 19 points a game. You also have another guard in Deja Lawrence who's shooting 44% from 3. That is a big matchup for Texas, how you can guard those two guards. That is Rory Harmon, Shea Holly, what the girls are going to be able to do for Texas guarding on the perimeter, shutting them down. That is an issue with Texas they have to look at. And then the big matchup inside of Clara Strack. She's 6'5", 15 points per game, 9.6 rebounds per game, 2.6 blocks per game. Playing inside, 6'5", pretty big, and against Taylor Jones, who is 6'5" as well. That'll be a huge matchup for Texas inside if you can get Taylor Jones going, or do you just basically slow down Clara Strack, who is their second leading scorer? And then the real question is, okay, there's our matchups. Everyone's kind of accounted for, except for Madison Booker for Texas. If Madison Booker gets going, that's been Texas' bread and butter, that you have all these great pieces, and then your X factor is Madison Booker. If she's able to have a big game tonight, then this looks like it could be another big win for Texas. Kentucky's coming off a loss. Texas coming off a win, so you just have to be ready to go. Kentucky's a better team at home than they are on the road. There's a lot of things that should tell you Kentucky is going to be ready to go tonight. It looks like it's going to be a really good matchup for Texas versus Kentucky.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder if Vic Schaefer should be the coach of the men's team. He's.
I don't think that. Women's and men's coaching are radically different, by the way.
No, absolutely. I'm just saying it's really impressive what he's done with this group over the last few years. I mean, the win over South Carolina. I mean, that's a really historical win, ending their 50-plus game SEC winning streak is something special. He's had them ready to play all season long. They're one of the top teams in the country. I think that they have an absolute opportunity to win a national championship, and I think that they're going to probably show up pretty good tonight in Kentucky. He always has them ready to play. I just, in a long season, you wonder if there's going to be a letdown here or there. This could certainly be one of them, because Kentucky's a talented team. They score a lot of points, and those are the kind of games that you kind of put an earmark in. But I think they take care of business tonight. This is an extremely good basketball team, and Vic Schaefer's done a tremendous job.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think this will be a good win for Texas tonight. Keep it rolling. Vic Schaefer does do a great job there. And when I say that difference, if you saw how hard women's basketball players get coached, you can't do it in men's because everyone hits the transfer portal too often. It's a crazy difference. I'm just telling you, these women work very, very hard. I've been around for some of the practices, and Vic Schaefer gets into them. Vic Schaefer gets into him, but he is a hell of a coach. He's also a guy that every one of them to a person will tell you they love to death, and he's always there at their first day of practice. So, he's done an amazing job turning this team around. Another one of those CDC hires that turned out to be a really great hire in Vic Schaefer at Texas, and he is really beloved around there. That's always because I grew up. Jody Conrad was the one that was who you always look. She's still at all those games. Good to see her still be part of the program, but what Vic Schaefer's been able to pull off. Going to be a lot of fun to watch them tonight. They're going to be on, I believe, ESPN2 here in just a couple minutes if you want to watch that game. For us, we will be back tomorrow with more on our Friday. We'll talk a little bit about Texas baseball tomorrow as we get into the season, a little bit about the rotation, get you ready for that, and then recap that a lot on Monday as well. Once we see these players in action for Texas, we'll be able to give you even more of an update on them. But as we get going, it'll be a fun Friday to get us ready for the weekend. Our first Friday show here on Open Gym, 4 to 6 now, Monday through Friday, right here on Texas Sports Unfiltered. Remember, the broadcast and news schedule starts at 7 a.m. with Bucky and BK. And until then, and until tomorrow, when you see us back here at 4 p.m. for Matt Gladson, thank you for joining me, and myself, Patrick Davis. Remember to be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow for more Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered.